All right, there we are. Good evening, everyone. You know, I often think about how often Coury and I start a stream like I don't know why, it's just reflex, like we switch to the scene and we see ourselves and we're like, there we are, as if it's a surprise.
I mean, it's kind of a surprise because you're now in frame for the whole world to see.
Yes, indeed. And I guess it is a surprise in the sense that Coury is not here. Coury caught something from his son this week and said he had zero energy today. I was actually getting ready to oh man, Sadie is getting rowdy. She wants me to throw her pumpkin. I was like literally in the middle of scheduling the stream when Coury says like, "Oh man, can you get a guest for tonight? I've got no energy." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay, let me come up with a backup plan." And what's funny is my backup plan kind of ended up being my original plan. I was going to play at first I was going to play Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster because the physical copy for that came out this week. And I thought it'd be funny, like, oh, hey, you know, playing an Xbox 360 game with the power of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Whoop-de-doo. But before that, I was actually, because just earlier this week, I finally got settled in with my RGB Game Gear setup. And this actually worked out because going back to that original plan and the fact that Coury couldn't join me, I was able to get the person who helped get this Game Gear prepped for me in the house tonight. Well, not in the house, but on the call, on the Discord call. So thank you, Fenris, for stepping in tonight.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. I had some time to kill, so why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've been very involved, increasingly so, I feel, in the past few years of, just, in the retro tech scene, and, you've got your YouTube channel with some cool modding videos and stuff, and it's cool to have, some fresher blood in the scene. Although you have been around, but I think becoming increasingly prominent.
Yeah, I'd say kind of so. I have just been doing more videos on my channel, so that mainly covering stuff that I don't see many channels cover or cover poorly. Which is why I don't do like the typical, and here's the Voltar RGB mod, or, and here is how you region mod your N64. It's like, I've seen a million videos of that and I know how to do it. But I've seen videos like, how do you restore a Super Famicom? And it's like, they take it apart, waterboard it maybe, and then like, oh, it's good to go. I'm like, oh, but did you replace the capacitors? Did you do anything else technically speaking? No? Okay. Then I guess I'm going to do it then.
Yeah. And you did a recent video where you like kind of went through some just random cheap grabs from Japan, kind of adding to your stock of systems to repair and refurbish, I guess.
Yeah. That was the I guess you can call it a two-part pickup series with scruffy looking RGB. We were first wondering how many Super Famicoms you can get for $100, like USD. And the answer is, if you don't count shipping, you can basically fill up a whole store with Super Famicoms.
That's wild.
But midway through, I was like, hey, could we also like try to get some, I also like to get some GameCubes and some Famicoms, because I had noticed that my supply on original Famicoms were running low and I did not have a single GameCube to work on, which was bad because I was trying to get going with my Ultimate GameCube project, which that's on hiatus until I get my GameCube shelf from Muramasa. Muramasa, if you're watching, I'm still waiting on my GameCube shell. Where is it?
But anyway, like, so I also see the Mr. Dots, who we prefer to call Mr. Do, in the chat here. This is his Game Gear original. Well, I should say it was his brother's Game Gear, and he wanted me to have it. Sent it my way at some point, I believe last year, and I was really excited about that because I had been wanting to get going with a real Game Gear for a while. I had started collecting Game Gear games probably back like when the Mega SG came out, because that was like the first time I had a device that I could play Game Gear carts on, and Game Gear games are often very cheap. And so yeah, I kind of started getting going on that, but I still like really wanted like a real way to play Game Gear on a real Game Gear, and I was always a little unsure like what route to take with the mods. You know, a lot of the like the screen replacement mods have a output component that goes along with them, I believe. But I didn't really want a modded screen because I wanted the ability to, you know, in video, be able to show the screen and to have it look like a real Game Gear screen. So when I was but I still like mostly wanted to play it as kind of a consoleized experience. I wanted to use a controller. I wanted to be able to hook it up to an upscaler and stuff like that. Like I wanted to play it on my TV primarily, but I wanted the screen to still look authentic for any case that I did use it. So anyway, so I was talking to you, and we kind of settled on the classic Tim Worthington Game Gear RGB board, the same guy that made you know, the famous NES RGB board, along with a controller mod and you strongly recommended to me a backlight replacement, since I guess the old backlights can be a bit dangerous maybe if they go bad.
Yeah, but before I explain that, we got a $5 donation from local S'mores Pop Tart. It says, "Good evening, MLiG. Settling in with the stream and some Mario and Luigi brothership in bed to wrap up my night/weekend."
Nice, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like that. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but I feel like that's going to be the first Mario and Luigi game that I play since Bowser's Inside Story. That was the last one I did. I was kind of feeling burnt out on them at that point, but I wanna give it another go. It's cool that it's like finally, you know, a console game. I mean, I consider the Switch a console, so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying brothership myself. I haven't gotten a copy yet, but I am definitely looking forward to that. So back to the Game Gear. So the reason why I said it's kind of dangerous is because the way that the Game Gear is lit up is it uses a fluorescent tube bulb, which contains mercury.
Yeah.
So if that breaks,
those make me uneasy.
Yeah, it would be pretty bad. So that's why I was like, let's remove this. It draws a lot of power anyways. And install a backlight mod, which is much more safe.
Which mod specifically was it? Do you remember?
So it was a Game Gear backlight mod. I'm trying to remember where I got it from.
Well, I think I got it and then, you know, sent it.
Oh, right.
To you, right. But I can't remember off the top of my head which website. I'm sure if look back through our history, could figure it out, but I can't remember exactly what website it was. But yeah, it was like it's an LED backlight replacement, you know, which may not 100% have the same character as the original screen, but it's pretty darn close. And obviously, like you say, a lot more power efficient, going to generate less heat, safer. And it's still, it's still using the original screen. So you have all of the quote unquote qualities of the Game Gear kept authentically intact. So I really liked that. I feel like through your recommendations, I was able to kind of choose the set of mods that that really appealed to me to be like what would be personally for me my ideal Game Gear. And I think it turned out great, but the only thing was it just took me a long time to get set up with it because kind of need a little bit of a weird cable for it. And I was kind of dragging my feet on asking people about it. And ultimately what you did recently was you just made an adapter for me, a simple adapter that would let me use a Genesis 2 or SCART cable or HD Retrovision cables with it. And so I ordered my SCART cable from Retro Access, and here we are. Earlier this week I made RetroTink 4K profiles because I was really surprised that there were no Game Gear RetroTink 4K profiles out there.
Yeah.
I know that, RGB modding a Game Gear might be a somewhat more obscure thing to do. It's certainly the first RGB mod that's new to my setup in quite some time. But yeah, I was surprised that not even for as far as I could see, for Mr. or anything like that, or Mega SG, I would have thought someone would have made Game Gear profiles. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and switch to the game view. I don't know if this is going, y'all tell me if it doesn't work so good for the stream. I've got the custom screen mask I made that's got the RGB elements, and raised black levels and desaturated colors. I don't know if those lines are going to play poorly with the compression. Let me know if that's a problem, because I made, where did I put my remote?
Well, while you're looking for the remote,
I made several RetroTink profiles here. So this is the one with the mask. But yes, hi Sandy, hi. But here is this is the raw color that's coming out of it. I guess it's kind of Master System basically. This is just the fully saturated colors. Very, very minimal jailbarring, which I guess is to be expected with something that's so packed dense with electronics, right?
Yeah. Also, according to this, Cloud FF7 72,000 has been a member for 2 years.
Nice, exactly 2 years.
What a great 2 years it's been. Here's to many more.
Yeah, I have gotten to meet Cloud a couple times at Retro World Expo.
But yeah, regarding the electronics of the Game Gear, so for those that don't know, the amount of mods I had to do to that thing, it's not easy when working with just the constraints of the Game Gear. We're talking about a backlight. We're talking about an RGB mod. We're talking about a controller mod.
And replacing the capacitors, which, if I recall, you said, I'm sure Mr. Do will be pleased to hear this. I believe you said that this was the internally the nicest condition Game Gear you'd seen.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, because I've had some Game Gears that were trashed, to the point where the boards, you just could not use the boards anymore. You had to use one of those SIF replacement boards, because the electrolytic fluid just suddenly bursted and ate away the traces. But your Game Gear in particular, it was clean, super clean inside.
And
I was actually surprised.
It was kind of a reddish brown PCB as well, which am I correct in thinking that's a pretty early model or something like that? I don't think I was under the impression that the brown PCB was not particularly common, but I'm not sure.
I'm not entirely sure about that myself either. But just to humor the thought, for the fact that it's so early, the fact with it being so clean, you basically just lucked out because the most Game Gears are like so bad.
Mhm.
Like I literally have a Game Gear right behind me that I picked up from a record store that I have yet to work on. But I'm already dreading the idea of what's going to be going on inside that thing.
Well, I mean, I remember years ago, many years ago, before I even had a Game Gear, because Coury, I think, had recently like changed the mods that he had in his Game Gear, and we were talking about like what I would theoretically get in a Game Gear someday. This was quite a while ago, many years ago. I was like talking to Voltar about it, and he's just like, no, I will not mod a Game Gear for you. Like he hates Game Gears. So yeah, it seems like it's normally a big pain in the butt. And I am so grateful to you for humoring me with all these things I wanted to do with this Game Gear, with the RGB mod, the backlight replacement, the cap replacement, the controller output. I mean, you said you were nervous about all this stuff fitting into one Game Gear, and it works.
Yeah. So Kohibadad, if I pronounce that correctly, has been a member for 14 months.
Thank you.
Thanks for stepping in for Coury, Fenris, and hope Coury feels better soon. I hope he feels better soon too.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too bad, because he said it was just kind of for his son, it was just kind of a slow build up and then just kind of blah. But I don't think it was anything too bad.
It seems there's like some sort of stomach virus going around. Where I work, it's been real bad. It's been knocking out like a lot of my coworkers. Like with the kind of environment I'm in, you're kind of exposed to a lot of pathogens. So it got so bad that I was just on my own one day to just handle the whole facility, and I was like,
not great.
But hey, I worked through it. So Stefan, you asked about replacement PCBs available for the Game Gear. What do I think about them? So the SIF boards.
I'll go ahead and play a little bit of Sonic while you're. I'm using, by the way, 2.4G 8-bit DOE M30 with a. I'm using an official Sega Genesis extension cable because the reception wasn't great where I set the Game Gear, and it could have also been just because of the packed electronics around the Game Gear and the receiver being right next to the Game Gear. Probably not great for reception. But yeah, once I put that extension on and got it out of the little kind of cubby where the Game Gear is, this wireless controller seems to be doing the job.
Yeah. Okay. So, about Game Gears, Shadow Mask. I saw you said replace it with the SMD caps. Do not do that, especially the handheld Legends ones.
Uh-oh.
For God's sakes, do not. The reason why is because the kits they use are all ceramic capacitors. You do not replace the electrolytic capacitors with ceramic capacitors. You are playing with fire at that point. And also, as far as replacement PCBs, the SIF boards are the best ones you can get your hands on and the only ones you need when your Game Gears are so eaten away that you're going to have to patch a bunch of traces. I would recommend getting that when your Game Gear is like foobar. Like, it's obvious that it's going to require a lot of patchwork to get done. There is also a McWill replacement board that adds HDMI. Do not get it. It is a waste of $200. How do I know this? I wasted $200 building that thing.
Yeah, I remember ceramic caps were really popular some years ago, like just in general. And I think that the idea being like, well, they don't leak like electrolytic, and I forget the details, but like there is a technical reason you shouldn't replace electrolytic with ceramic.
So it has to do with capacitance and retention. So I don't want to like get super deep into it because it's like super technical, but in layman's terms, you think of an electrolytic capacitor as like batteries. So say that the electrolytic capacitor is like a high-end Energizer lithium battery, very high quality, may have some issues down the road, but otherwise is pretty clean and works well. Ceramic capacitors are basically like those dollar store batteries. They work, and that's where it ends. Now, that's not to say ceramic capacitors are bad per se, but it really depends on the application. You need to make sure that you're using the correct type of capacitors with very specific applications. Like, for example, for certain like audio signals, yes, you can use ceramics, but it's recommended that you use something like X5R or X7R ceramics. Whereas like something like a voltage reference signal or a audio or video output, you need to use an electrolytic because a ceramic is not going to be able to hold as strongly.
By the way, how are people feeling about the RGB filter I got? Obviously, it's going to look a lot better on my TV than it's going to look on the stream. Just to mix things up, I can switch to one of the other profiles I have on here, which is like, again, this is like the unattenuated colors, but sharp pixels, no mask. And then here is, I tried to make the colors, feel as similar as possible to what they look on the Game Gear. When looking at it in the extremely narrow field of view where the colors look kind of like they should. It sure says I would use the non-mask one. Okay, well we can do that. I just wanted to show it because I thought it was fun and I was pretty proud of it. But if it doesn't look good on stream, then we will go with these still washed out colors, so still kind of has got the authentic feel. But it'll look cleaner for a stream.
Yeah. Real quick, MK, you asked if ceramics fail with a short. No, that's tantalums. Tantalum capacitors, when they fail, they short. When ceramics fail, they just fail. Like they can fail short, but they can also fail open as well. Just getting that out there real quick. Yeah, as far as your filters goes, I was watching you like tinker with it in the RetroTink Discord, and I'm like, what is this man doing?
Well, it wasn't like I'd never really made my own mask before, but once for one, Kebabs told me about the website that someone made where you can very easily make your own RetroTink masks, which was a very, very nice tool for doing that. Man, I'm not getting this jump. Well, you know what? I've got a whole. We were joking on the Backloggery stream a few weeks ago about the idea of just how fun it would be to reach your hand into just a bowl full of DS games.
You are insane.
Obviously, the texture of this is different, but I've got a bowl full of Game Gear games, all in the little cases. So I was thinking, this is every Game Gear game I own in this overflowing bowl.
Try not to sprain your finger.
Mr. Dew's idea. The bowl. This stream's all about you, Mr. Dew. So all thanks to you. Everything here. So yeah, I thought, I do have Corey, I have a hand-me-down Game Gear EverDrive from Corey if there's something specific we want to try at some point. But otherwise, I thought I would just grab random games out of here, not look, and just switch between them. So
yeah,
ready to go?
Go for it.
Let's see what we got. Oh man, here we go. Whoops.
So while Try's picking out games, I will say one other neat thing about modding a Game Gear. It also can act as like a pseudo master system, because if you do the mod right, you can add a switch for master system mode, allowing you to play master system games on your Game Gear or through a Game Gear EverDrive. This is also critical if you want to play the Game Gear version of Castle of Illusion, because that is literally the master system ROM on a Game Gear cartridge.
Which we can try that later, because I do have somewhere in here the Game Gear version of Castle of Illusion. So Jurassic Park here is considered pretty good. Like, I think this is considered one of the best, if not the best. The Master System version, I believe, is considered better, but this is basically the same game. But yeah, between Game Gear and Master System, I think this is by the people who have played it, generally considered the best original, the best of the 8-bit and 16-bit games based on the original Jurassic Park.
So I will say that, like, the Game Gear has an excellent library of games, like really good library of games. The problem is that the screen just sucks.
And it takes 6 batteries.
And it takes 6 batteries. But
guzzles
just
6
sucks.
batteries. Yeah. Game Gear is still by and large cheap to buy games for. At least, loose carts like I do. When I see some place that's selling the clamshell cases, I get those as well. But yeah, and also the thing that I like about the Game Gear is that its library kind of largely comes from the era of Master System where Sega figured out how to make a console game. This would ruffle the feathers of any Master System fans present. I don't know if Corey is watching. I've said this before though. That it feels like don't get me wrong. There's some stuff I like on Master System, but like a lot of the stuff on Master System that's like was only released like in Europe, like in Brazil, like after, North America was just done with Master System. Some of that later stuff, like it was developed by Sega in Japan, and it's like really good, really high quality stuff. And it's made with a different design ethos, I feel. Ethos, I don't know how you say it. But like earlier Master System, like the majority of the era of Master System that came out here, with some major exceptions like Phantasy Star and other things that are super amazing on Master System. I feel like a lot of Master System games were kind of made in this vacuum where like the Famicom didn't exist. And like the standards of game design and things like that were, developing at a rapid pace on the Famicom and NES, like Sega was just ignoring that. And they were just... Then the later Master System games, and as a result, a lot of what ended up on Game Gear, and also the games exclusive to Game Gear, those games feel like they were made with an awareness of, we are competing with Nintendo in the 8-bit console market. We are competing with Nintendo in the 8-bit handheld market. And, the games are of a quality that can compete with those games. Whereas I feel like the earlier Master System games just can't compete with NES games that were coming out at the same time. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. We got a $5 donation from Falcon X Punch. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks to Corey and last week's stream, my life has become consumed by Balatro?
Oh no. Yeah, it's this I don't know. He like kind of compared it to like Vampire Survivors at some point. It's like the Vampire Survivors version of a card game or something like that. It's like, or the Vampire Survivors version of poker, I guess. I don't know. It's a great game to eat your cereal to, he said.
That's quite an analogy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really understand poker, so he streamed a little bit of it last week. And yeah, I didn't really get it.
Now, as far as like my opinion about like Game Gear and Master System as a whole, I will say if you stick exclusively to the American library, you're severely limiting yourself. Yes, I know Coury loves his Master System and he grew up with it. Shush. But if you want like good Master System stuff, you gotta import through Europe because they got gold. They got some serious gold over in Europe.
I nearly when I visited John in Germany earlier this year, I nearly doubled my Master System collection. They got good stuff over there, and it's cheap. Like, and the great thing is, you know, Master System games are generally unmodified and certainly not optimized for 50 hertz. They're just the 60 hertz versions. For the most part.
Yeah, there are some games that are optimized for 50 hertz, but it's like vanishingly low. There aren't like a ton of games that utilize 50 hertz when you import them from PAL.
Yeah.
But that being said, like I feel that you can get a good collection of Master System games far cheaper than you could get like some of the bangers for NES.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'd say one of my favorite games of all time on both the Master System and Game Gear is a game called Master of Darkness.
Oh yeah, it's in my bowl here.
Yeah,
it is basically as well.
Yeah, it is Castlevania, but set in like this kind of Jack the Ripper era Britain. And I'm like, yes, I am all for this. But one of my personal holy grails I'm trying to get is Ninja Gaiden on the Master System. Now, the one on Master System and the one on Game Gear, two separate games completely.
Oh, I forgot that they're different. I have the Game Gear one. It's not great, but it's not terrible either.
Well, the Master System one is actually based off the NES version of Ninja Gaiden. It has different levels, yes, but the graphics are largely inspired by the NES games. And I'm like, I should get a copy. Oh crap, it's like $80 for a loose cart.
Yeah, but I don't like to get loose cart Master System.
Yeah, that's
Game
the thing.
Gear, that's fine.
I was like, well, how much is it for a box? Oh, it's $150 for a box.
But yeah, yeah, I mean, you've got great stuff in Europe, like the Asterix games. Asterix 1 and 2 on Master System are amazing. Yeah, and some things like I said, like Sonic 1 I got for so much cheaper. Oh, it looks like I think he's only taking damage if I shoot him in the rear. Yeah, like I got Sonic 1 and Psycho Fox and oh yeah, the big one, Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. All significantly pricier games for the North American versions, which the ROM is no different. The ROM is exactly the same, runs at 60 hertz on a NTSC system. There is just no reason to not play the European version or buy the European version of those if
yeah, the Sonic 1 where it's literally just a barcode.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And it makes even less sense because it's like they're so common in Europe. Like you can get like each of them for like $20-$30 with the box. Although I'm a little picky, I want to try to also get one with the manual, which isn't that much more. But I still need to get the Sonic games. I have them on Game Gear. I just don't have them on Master System. I had them at one point, but then I sold my Master System collection when I was like, not really feeling it. But then recently I started getting back into it, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to rebuild this collection.
Oh man, man, that's some like really good fake parallax. You got reflections in the water. I mean, this is. I gotta say, this game. I had played a little bit of this game after I got it, and I feel like it's making an even stronger impression now than last time I tried it. Like this is quite good.
Yeah. I think probably another fun bit that I've been having with Master System, and this kind of like ties into like some of my early roots. I was able to actually make myself a couple of Master System reproduction cartridges. It's actually much easier than like NES or SNES. There's no wiring involved if you make sure you match ROMs. But I ended up doing repros of like the Gunstar Heroes conversion, as well as the Tales Adventure conversion, because there were people converting Game Gear games to Master System. And I also the only one that actually did get a Master System release that I did do a repro of is Battle Maniacs, which is a port of the Genesis and Super Nintendo version, and it was released on Master System in Brazil from Tectoy, but I was like, I don't ever see this game like legit ever, so I was like, I might as well just make my own copy and make it look like it's styled after the like it's an official Master System game. I mean, Tectoy was official, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really fun library to explore, both Game Gear and Master System. I just feel that like with the Master System, a lot of people don't really give it a chance if they didn't grow up with it.
Yeah. If you play the stuff that came out more in the 90s on Master System, some of that stuff's really good.
Yeah.
And I feel the same can be said of NES as well. Like I think a lot of people like only play earlier NES stuff, which I think is a lot better than earlier Master System stuff. But I think a lot of people think like, oh, 8-bit stuff, that's too old for me. But man, like the stuff that was released on NES and Famicom in the 90s is like, you know, as good as what was coming out on 16-bit consoles. You know?
Oh yeah, easily. One of my favorite NES games is let's see, some of my favorites would be like Shatterhand, Shadow of the Ninja. Let's see, Batman Return of the Joker is actually a really solid game, and it is beautiful on the NES.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that in a lot of ways that like the era, you know, unfortunately a lot of those games are expensive because that was when people were so focused on like look at this like that is really creative. I think how they like integrated this Brachiosaurus into the level design here with like the feet in the background. Like that's taking up a lot of ROM space to put this guy in there. Like that's this game is really impressing me, I have to say.
Would you say it's hardware pushing?
It might be. Did GameSack include this in a hardware games that push hardware limits episode? I don't remember.
Good question. I don't think I remember exactly every game they've done in the hardware pushing series.
I definitely don't.
But all I can say is like, as far as like my opinion about hardware pushing on the system, I say that if you need an external microcontroller or processing chip, it's not really pushing the hardware. It's basically just just going beyond it at that point. That might be a controversial opinion, but let me explain. The way I look at it is like, if it's literally just the ROMs with no assistance, that makes more sense because you are pushing it's all on the hardware itself. It's just interacting in such a way that it's native to the original hardware without external devices. So the way I look at it, the real hardware limiter push for NES is the first Super Mario Brothers. That's literally as good as it gets.
Most NES games do use mappers of some description, and I don't know if Master System was incapable of mappers, but to my knowledge, no games use mappers. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I don't know if Master System was incapable of mappers, but to my knowledge, no games use any on Master System.
I think very, very few games did. I think it's like the Tectoy, one of the Tectoy games did. I think their port of Street Fighter 2 did, or Mortal Kombat 3, one of those two. But the way it worked is that they had a memory controller for it. It was basically just bank switching. That was the mapper. It's similar to like Genesis, where it's like the larger Meg games used a bank switcher in order to better control the amount of data that's going in and out. And I would consider that cheating because, again, it's external hardware to make it work. But when you cap it out at what the hardware can do at its max, then it makes more sense. So, like, most Master System games don't use a mapper. It's literally just the raw ROM. Same with Genesis. Most games on the Genesis don't use mappers. It's just the raw ROM, which I feel like is kind of what makes some of the later games on those systems a little bit more impressive if you think about it, because it did not need any help. It doesn't need, and most of the games didn't need an external mapper to make it do all these fancy schmancy 3D processing or high res graphics or whatever. It's just the raw hardware and the talent of devs.
Had a little trouble getting that cart to read. Hopefully we can get somewhere with it. So I don't really know what the popular opinion on this port is, but I don't like Ristar very much on the Genesis. What happened to my keyboard? I actually don't like Ristar that much. I wish I did because I love the aesthetics of it. But
it's very Sonic-esque.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, like it feels like a marriage of like Genesis and Super Nintendo style designs in a lot of ways. I love the ideas of it, but like playing deep into the game frustrates me every time.
Would you like it better if Ristar played more like Mischief Makers?
Maybe it's to be honest, like the thing that really did it in for me, and and it looks like this does have a password feature. The thing that really turned me off was I got to the final boss like 2 or 3 times, and like by the end of all that, I was able to get to the final boss without losing a single life, without using a single continue, and then blowing all my lives and continues on the final boss. Like that might be a somewhat unfair way to judge a game, maybe. It's fun until the final boss, so I hate it. There were things that frustrated me, but like something about the little bit I played of this port, I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like this. So I'm going to give this one a chance. I actually like the the 8-bit rendition of the like main theme music more than the Genesis one. You know, the Genesis one I have wanted to use is like the level 1 theme by Genesis. It's a great tune. But I always, every time I think about using it in a video, I end up not, because it has this really high-pitched sound in the, somewhere in the instrumentation. And it just makes this really shrill tone that it's like a really shrill, repetitive tone that just feels distracting next to the voiceover.
To see where you're coming from.
So
with
I never use it, and I think I'm not positive, but I want to say I have used the 8-bit version of it. I'm not sure if this has a Master System version or not, but I don't know. I think this is pretty good. Like I'm pretty impressed.
It might have been a little too late for it to be to have a Master System release. I mean, sure, Tectoy did a lot of ports, but they didn't do everything.
Yeah.
But I know Gunstar Heroes didn't get a Master System port from the Game Gear version. And that's actually a fantastic game.
It is, but I don't know if it would have worked that well on the Master System, because it takes advantage of the Game Gear's slow refresh rate so much that
you would be surprised. I have a repro of the port from Game Gear to Master System, and it runs surprisingly well.
Really? Well, it's just because it has like a ton of sprite flicker, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't really notice on the Game Gear screen itself.
Yeah, it has a ton of sprite flicker, but I was like, well, darn. Like, the fact that they were even able to make this work on the Master System, I mean, I would imagine it took a lot of work, but it's actually pretty impressive.
I'll have to check that out sometime then.
I think I'm trying to remember the website. I think it's SMS Power. That's where a lot of the Game Gear to Master System ports are. It is literally a whole forum dedicated to Master System and Game Gear. Like, it's the kind of forum that would probably make Coury smile with glee every day as he checks the boards.
Oh, look, we got an edge animation there. Love it. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really impressive. It plays great.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on here for a Game Gear game, I think.
Yeah, I'd say that Ristar, whatever you want to call it. What I love about the game is that whether it's the Genesis version or the Game Gear version, it just has a lot of charm to it. Like,
absolutely,
it's the graphics are very pleasing. The music is actually pretty solid. The character designs are actually fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was I saw someone already compared to Kirby. Like, that's definitely a big part of what appeals to me. Is it feels like the closest thing that Sega did to coming up with like a Kirby-like character, I would say. Even though it plays very different, it's maybe a little closer to like, I don't know, Bionic Commando or something, maybe with like the
grapple mechanic
and stuff. Yeah, but very different, since you can like grab in so many different directions, and maybe in some ways like maybe similar to what Treasure went on to do with Mischief Makers that you mentioned earlier. With all the grabbing and stuff.
The difference, though, is that Marina also shakes.
Yes. Shake.
Funny thing about that game.
Is this how I'm supposed to do it? Maybe.
So, funny thing about Mischief Makers, I was introduced to it by a really close friend of mine. We've been friends since middle school. I remember when it was like my second year into collecting, and he's like, dude, you got to check out this game called Mischief Makers. It's like one of my favorites from childhood. And I ended up finding a copy at a flea market for like $5. You know, back when you could do that. But yeah, immediately I was just so confused because I was like, okay, you're a cybernetic robot lady going around grabbing and throwing other weird-looking cyber android-looking fellas. But once you get into it, yeah, when you get into it, you get really into it. Like, it's weird, but it's addicting at the same time.
Yeah, well, and mechanically, there's still nothing like it to this day, and it's a game that it's like maybe I wouldn't say only, but it's like it's definitely an example of a game that utilizes the N64 controller in an interesting way for mechanics that would maybe not make so much sense on a more standard controller. But what's weird about it is that it's a 2D game, it's a D-pad game, but it uses the C buttons in such a unusual way for like your booster in each direction. And I feel like that wouldn't have translated as well to like a PlayStation controller. Like you could do like where your boosters are on like the face buttons, or if you were using a DualShock, you could do it on the right stick. But I think like putting like grab and jump on the shoulder buttons would have been pretty odd.
I think, so just remembering like the original PlayStation controller, I'm not talking about the DualShock. I'm talking like OG, no sticks involved, possibly infringing on Nintendo's patents, PlayStation controller. Like, thinking about its layout, I think Mischief Makers would have been a little bit trickier to play due to the fact that the buttons are just so further apart from each other than the N64 controller. Like, the reason why I love Mischief Makers is because everything is like quick. You can do quick actions with how short those distant those buttons are. Whereas with the PlayStation controller, I feel that the extra travel could have made the controls more awkward.
Yeah. You know, like distance between buttons is a big thing, especially when they're buttons like, you know, your main two buttons, your jump and attack, like that can make a big difference. That's the reason I don't really like the dog bone controller for NES, because the buttons are just the slightest amount further apart. And I actually noticed that on the Game Gear as well. You know, the buttons, you know, if you were to like put your finger like between the buttons and try to rock your thumb between them, it's not the most comfortable in the world. So that's why it's nice I can use the controller output mod and use this here. I see we got a $10 super chat from Eric Armbruster. That's a fun name. Thank you. I'm saying, sup dudes, cool theme tonight. My parents got me Game Gear instead of Game Boy because it was in color before I could understand. Unique experience. Gives me lots of love for it. All hail Batter Up by Namco. I'm not sure if I'm
Sounds
familiar.
Like a baseball game.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm familiar with Namco's Game Gear output at all, to be honest.
They did do Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. I remember that much.
That's interesting. You know, talking about, you know, having Game Gear instead of Game Boy. I've probably told this story before, but I'll tell it again just because I think it's one of the funny gaming stories of my childhood. A friend of mine in 3rd grade, I think, you know, we were in the same class. And I was going like, going to have a sleepover at his house. I don't think I'd been to his house before. And I was like, wondering like, oh, maybe I should bring my Game Boy. I was like, you know, maybe we can do some link cable play. That wasn't something that happened very often, you know? Oh, look how the sky gets darker the higher you climb here. That's cool.
You're going into space.
Whoa. But yeah, anyway, so I asked him, you have Game Boy? And he's like, no, I have Game Gear. I'm like, okay, but do you have a Game Boy? He's like, no, I have Game Gear. Now, I didn't ask again. I'm just like, What? Like the way he was saying it to me, like implied like, no, I don't have a Game Boy, but I have gear for Game Boy, like accessories for Game Boy. I'd never heard of Game Gear. So like I didn't, when he said I have Game Gear, I didn't know what he meant. Like I was just like, oh, I'm thinking like, why would you have gear for Game Boy, but no Game Boy? Like,
can you imagine how much more confusing if you're in the UK? I don't got Game Boy, I got Game Duck.
Game Duck? Wait, Game Gear's called Game Duck in the UK?
No, so there is a Taiwanese sorry, not Game Duck, Mega Duck.
Well,
there's a handheld.
I'm familiar with Mega Duck, although I don't know what regions it was in, I guess.
It was available in the UK, but it was also, I think, in Taiwan. Sorry, I said Game Duck, but I meant Mega Duck. Like, can you imagine how confusing it must have been, like, as a Game Boy owner back then? And then you, the person you go to see has, like, one of the opposite handhelds, like Game King. That's what I was getting mixed up with. Game King, Mega Duck, things like that. I would imagine, like, okay, can it play Tetris, though?
Well, whoa. You know, I'm pretty sure like these levels, like after the first level and these bosses, I don't think they're in the, like this is I mean, it's been a while since I played the Genesis one, but I want to say these are totally different totally different games pretty much. Like not just like different level design, like same theme but different level design, like, you know, like Donkey Kong Land or something like that. Like this actually seems to be completely different, like theming and bosses. I think it's been a while, but I don't remember this like pirate ship world. I certainly don't remember this boss.
Yeah, according to Jasm, the level theme and boss are completely different.
That's awesome. And I think it's really good. Like so far I am enjoying it more than the Genesis game. Heresy as that may be.
I think it's an acquired taste.
I think it's comparable at the very least, I would say, I suppose.
Like, I think a very non-controversial opinion would be, I prefer the Master System version of Batman Returns over the Genesis version of Batman Returns.
100%. Like, I actually didn't know about, I mean, the Genesis one I mean, let's be honest, it's a terrible game. Yeah, I didn't even know about the Master System game until I was in Germany this year. And then John's like, oh, hey, look, they've got, we went to a little miniature convention in Heidelberg. And that's where I bought like 7 Master System games there.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining, like, John's like, hey, look, this is a really cool Master System game, and then like you can still hear Coury from the other side of the world.
You should buy this.
You should get this.
You should get this. All right, let's switch to something else. What we got in our bowl of Master System games.
So we got a $2 donation from Space Robot Arm.
Oh,
wow,
hey!
I recapped my childhood Game Gear yesterday.
Glad to hear it. I got to hang out a little bit with Space Robot Arm at Retro World. Good to see you here.
I'm here talking about Game Gears, and every now and then I'm looking behind me, looking at the Game Gear that has a tag on it that says white vertical lines, and I'm dreading the day that I work on that. I know I'm gonna hate it. Like, here's the thing: I don't hate working on Game Gears if I'm just doing like a screen mod and a recap. But I know for a fact that's not what I'm going to do for this Game Gear. I know 1000% in my soul I am going to try again with all those mods. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
Well, it turned out great once.
So it was challenging. Like, it was really challenging because the screen, the backlight, whatever. I've done that before. But where it got tricky is you don't got a ton of space to work with on the Game Gear. The only spot that's actually not populated where you can mount those boards is underneath the cartridge slot. And that is a very thin amount of space. So try when you're trying to stack a video mod and a controller mod in that same space without the wires crossing over each other, it's really difficult. But man, was it so satisfying when I got it to work.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything to do with this house? Oh. I just talked to not Daisy. So, I don't think it was this game. Can I pick up things? Yes. I don't think it was this game. I think I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the next,
It's Castle of Illusion, Land of Illusion, Legend of Illusion.
Right. But there's another one on Game Gear, and it's somewhere. Actually, I see it right here. Legend of Illusion. Okay, yeah, Legend of Illusion. I didn't even know that existed. I don't think Coury knew either until I saw it at a convention. Maybe
Fun fact.
2 or 3 years ago.
Fun fact, that was also one of the few games that did get ported over by Tectoy on the Master System.
Ah.
But good luck trying to find the Master System version.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it was just Tectoy, I imagine its distribution was confined to Brazil.
Brazil. Yeah. So I got a question from Ashura. What's your preferred Game Gear screen mod? I'm not a huge fan that most of them require you to rip out that one post. I
mean, I would vote for what I did, where you just keep the original screen and just get a new backlight. Which, I mean, it doesn't change the visibility, but it keeps it authentic and, like you told me, like safer, I guess, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing: the backlight mod, if you want an authentic experience, is the way to go. But if you're talking about like something along the lines of a Game Boy, 90% of the screens you'll find absolutely suck. I'm sorry, because a lot of them have really bad scaling issues, and and you can see it when you play the games. Like none of the pixels are actually uniform. They're all random and stretched out. It looks like someone was messing with the scaling settings and never corrected it. And the thing is, though, they don't even have modes to correct it for the most part. They're all not all the modes that you could use on those screens are not correct. And I'm trying to think. I think Ben Ven is the only person that I've seen do a decent job with screens, but I've never installed a Ben Ven kit. I wanted to, but they were always sold out. Now, when I work on this Game Gear, the Ben Ven kit is probably what I'm going to go for, but only because his kit has an HDMI output, and I'm very curious to see how I can make that work.
Yeah, I mean, the do any of them though? Do they have like something approaching the correct aspect ratio, or at least like no pixel shimmer? Because one that Coury had, I don't remember exactly which one, it might have been McWill, but I'm not sure. It had non-integer scaling, although I think there may have been a few.
Most of them have do not scale pixels correctly whatsoever.
Right, yeah. I mean, that was one reason I just decided to go with the backlight mod.
Yeah. Like
it's still gonna look a little crappy, but
if you were having if you were having an aneurysm over Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance screen mods, you were basically just going to end up in a coffin dealing with Game Gear screen mods.
I hated it so much. I hated it.
Like, I remember when you showed off that Wonder Swan that I sent you, when you were like quickly talking about the screen issues, I kind of felt like your eye was twitching. Just
the thing was, the Wonder Swan one, like, I didn't have the same issues with it compared to the Game Boy ones. Like, I don't know if it's because like the Wonder Swan runs at like a different refresh rate, but like it didn't. It didn't have like the like, you know, one of the very few games I have for it is like Final Fantasy 1, and the cartridge I have has a save right next to a church in the game, which is where you, is that where you save? No, I think you save there. Anyway, like, it's one of the common functional locations in a town in that game. And
yeah.
They've got like these torches that flicker, and I let it sit there for a while. Did not have flicker retention. Basically, like, I don't know about the installation. That could have been annoying, but yeah,
it wasn't.
Pretty much. Like, it was basically the same kind of mod, but it did not irritate me.
I think what
like
the
result
is that
of the mod didn't irritate me like some of the Game Boy stuff.
I think it has to do with refresh rate. So I think for Game Boy, it's spec'd a little too low for 60, for 60 hertz, if I should say. Whereas the Wonder Swan is the opposite. It's spec'd high. It's around like 75 hertz. So it's like more. It's much closer to like PC screens and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Which may have been. I don't know if that's is that the native refresh of those like BlackBerry screens, or I don't know. Honestly.
I think probably maybe not. I'm not too familiar with those BlackBerry screens in terms of their specs, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that those screens can handle higher refresh rates, but can't handle lower refresh rates.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to get past this point. So, cool game though. I need to take it more seriously, I guess, and figure out how to get past it. But let's pull another out. What we got? Oh.
Funny thing, I actually had a Game Boy Advance video that I was working on early into like my YouTube, my whole YouTube thing. I have half the footage, and I haven't touched it since. It's not because I gave up on the project. I completely forgot about it. But by this point in time, the way I've been doing my videos has changed so much that like I'm kind of just thinking of scrapping the video and just starting all over.
Yeah, I mean, it's always so hard to go back to an old in progress thing like that.
Like what I was doing is I wanted to focus on more ancient modifications. So in this case, it's like I wanted to go back to the first Game Boy Advance screen mods with the AGS 101 screens. But what kind of bricked it was, it turned out the screen that I got was bad.
Oh.
So I was like, I need to order another one. So I went to AliExpress, put it on my cart, and then completely forgot about it. Now, fast forward 2 years, I found the system, and I'm like, well, crap. That footage, I have the footage, I have the system still, but it was that...
Turn the game up a bit. As the game audio, like, it seems like the audio in this game is maybe a little lower, but... Does the audio need to be higher for game? Has the audio been okay for games in general? Has been, I don't want it to be too loud.
I kind of muted the. Let me see.
Sega's 8-bit versions of Aladdin are always a good time, I think. I don't think I've played Beyond the Cave of Wonders in them before, but These opening auto runner levels are very visually impressive, especially when you look at the edge. Watch right here, the edge between these buildings. You know, you actually get a bit of a 3D effect. It's a totally different game from, you know, the Sega. Of course, I you know, the one they published was American developed. This, I assume, is Japanese developed, but I don't actually know. But I think the gameplay is a lot better in this than the Genesis one. A completely different game. But, you know, I am on the 16-bit Aladdin Wars. I'm firmly in the Super Nintendo Capcom camp.
Yeah, me too. I feel that the Super Nintendo version is more accurate. It feels more like what you would expect from an Aladdin game. Like with the Genesis version, he's Aladdin's like carrying around a sword, and I'm like, he only used a sword once in the film, and that was when he was fighting Jafar. Like, it feels kind of off to have him with a sword, because his whole thing was acrobatics, escaping. And I feel like the acrobatic aspect of Aladdin is captured better in both the Game Gear version of this game and the Super Nintendo version of this game. Like,
yeah. And, you know, yeah, the Genesis one, you know, it does have very Disney-like animation. But
well, that's because
I feel that it's at the expense of the gameplay.
So the Disney level animation is because the studio that animated Aladdin got involved with the development. They drew the sprite work. They did the same thing with Lion King as well.
Yeah, and which I also hate Lion King game, and that one, unfortunately, you know, is the same on Super Nintendo. So
when it comes to Lion King, you're kind of screwed no matter which version you pick.
Yeah. I don't know of one that's like not was it Virgin Interactive? Are they the ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the misfortune of having the worst version of Lion King, or sorry, Le Roi Lion for the NES.
Oh.
I purchased it for like $20 a year ago, and I got it because I needed a reference game for testing PAL mode on clone systems. If it's not a proper PAL system, this game breaks.
Interesting.
But what's interesting though, it's like, see, I like Super Nintendo Aladdin. Game Gear Aladdin is pretty solid too. I don't like any version of Lion King. Like, I've tried every one of them via emulation, and I'm sorry, just no. Like, the game tortures you. It is like, I'm pretty sure that back in the day they would put this. They would have prisoners of Guantanamo Bay play this. Like, it is that torturous.
I remember for a while I thought it was a Capcom game because I was just so used to Disney games being Capcom, right? You know, and I thought it was Capcom, and I'm like, man, they did a bad job with this one. And then I learned that it whoopsie.
But I will say though, the next game they did, Jungle Book, fun.
Oh,
like I actually have fun with Jungle Book.
The next one Virgin did?
Yeah, I think it was the next next game that Virgin did for Disney. It was Jungle Book.
And that was on Genesis. Just Genesis or
Genesis, Super Nintendo, NES, Game Boy.
I'll have to try that one sometime. I don't think I've tried. All I know is that Tailspin on Genesis. It is Genesis, right? That's really bad. There's also a TurboGrafx one, right? That's really bad too, but it's different, I think. Or am I thinking of something else? Am I thinking?
You're probably thinking of Tailspin was on Genesis and it was on NES. Neither one are good. The NES version is like a shooter, but it's really hard to shoot what's in front of you. The Genesis one is a kind of cheap platformer, and it's not that great. As far as TurboGrafx, I think there is a Tailspin game on TurboGrafx. I'm not entirely sure. I do know there was a TurboGrafx Darkwing Duck, and that was abysmal.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, haven't had trouble with a few cards tonight.
Try, have you not been cleaning your games again?
Oh, I clean all my games before I put them on the shelf. But you know what? I feel like this is one that I can't not play. So I'm gonna get the stuff out to clean it.
Probably, it probably just needs a reflow. And yes, for those that are wondering, the Game Gear does suffer the same problem as Game Boy in terms of the games. It has surface mount chips, so it can detach itself due to the thin substrate. So the repair would be a reflow. See here. Well, he's kind of fiddling around. Let's see. Darkwing Duck has the bad TurboGrafx version. Yeah. It's like it can't even hold a candle to the NES version. Like not even a little bit.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing about Tailspin on NES too is, I mean, that's a Capcom game. You know, you would think it was good.
You'd think, but no.
Hopefully, I do not spill any alcohol on me because there's not much left on this bottle. Whew, that was close. Yeah, I never put a game on my shelf until I've cleaned it. So I expect this to be pretty clean, and you know, especially since since I've cleaned these, most of them have just been seen in these cases. It does indeed look like it's pretty clean. So I don't know. Maybe the cartridge slot could use a little cleaning.
Worst case scenario, it might be that the cartridge itself might just need a reflow. Because like I was explaining to the audience,
I've never had to do or have anything like that done before.
So with Game Boy and Game Gear games, due to the fact that they're on really thin PCBs, just the constant mechanical force could cause a solder joint to break on the ROM. I've repaired a ton of Game Boy games like that, and I've repaired a few Game Gear games like that. It's not. I don't think I've had that issue a lot with Game Gear, but I've definitely had it a lot with Game Boy, especially with the Pokemon games.
Oh, maybe. Oh, it was so close.
Yeah, I don't think it's able to access the ROM.
But it's displaying that Sega thing.
Well, it's the same could be said for like Genesis games too. Like sometimes you'll have a game that can pop up the TMSS screen, but doesn't mean that it goes any further.
Well, it's Master of Darkness. That's a bummer.
Oh,
That's a bummer. Well, let's go for another. Yeah, well, I'll have to keep that in mind. Maybe if I send you any things for work in the future, I'll maybe toss this in and see if I had a little trouble. I had a little trouble at first getting, I think it was Ristar booting as well. Uh-oh. We got more trouble.
I'm hoping it's not the Game Gear.
Well, let's see. No, I don't think so, because I just put I put Jurassic Park in again, and it started to boot up. So the ones that have worked, I've had no trouble. Let me try this again.
Yeah, I think probably a couple of your games probably just have loose ROM chips. Not like to the point where they're flopping around or something like that. They're not Paprium cartridges.
Yeah, I had never heard of that, but maybe that's a bit of a problem on Game Gear. Let's see.
It's the problem with the handheld games in general. I've had that issue with DS games as well.
Huh.
It's just the fact that they're on thin PCBs and constant mechanical force causes surface mount components to disconnect.
Oh, well, let's see what we got here.
At bare minimum, you could say that game was very well loved.
Keep running into problems. Oh, now this will be an interesting one. I hope we can get this one to work.
That is interesting. Very, very interesting.
I think. Yeah. It's.
Oh, there's Sandy.
Hopefully it's not. Not a problem. Oh, now this is interesting. That was not aligned very well. So okay, so is there no way, or if I flip the switch the other way, will this format it for Game Gear?
No. So basically, you just have to dial your scalar settings at this point because now it's running in Master System mode.
Okay, so what happens if I flip the switch that's on the system?
So that's for like the color of the screen. So like I said, it mainly applies to when you're playing in handheld mode.
Okay. So it doesn't really change anything for the video output.
Only if you flip the switch, then it forces the colors for Master System mode onto the handheld.
Okay. So the scene probably won't really be laid out in the correct way for this, but just
yeah, you have to use the Master System mode.
Let's see what. That was actually where I started. I started from one of Firebrand X's Master System profiles here, and then made my Game Gear profiles from there. So let's try this one. See if it fits the. Well, it's cut off a bit.
That's kind of the sad reality with
well, it's just because of how I sized up the
screen.
I sized up the layout for my Game Gear profile, so it's going. You all are missing a few things. So I won't play this one long. But yeah, this is, so to explain for people who don't know what's going on here. Some Game Gear games are literally just a Master System ROM. And in this case, you know, I am able to view on my TV like the full 240p graphics. Oh, Master System doesn't really do draw on the full 240 lines. What is it like? Does it only draw on like 180 or 90 some lines? I forget. But at any rate, you're getting a much higher resolution game here than your normal Game Gear game, because it's not a Game Gear game; it's a Master System game, not converted in any way, really. I'm actually not too sure what the game looks like on the actual Game Gear screen. I can take a look in a moment here.
It's kind of from the top and bottom.
Okay, so can you not even see the HUD then?
You can. It's just that it's basically the Master System screen resolution within the Game Gear screen resolution.
So do they scale it? Do they scale it a bit? Like it's not.
No. It would be like seeing a 16:9 game in a 4:3 window.
Yeah. So do you know off the top of your head of other games that do this?
Not off the top of my head. It's just Castle of Illusions, the one that I know the most.
Yeah.
It's also the one that I used to test the quote-unquote Master System mode switch.
Right. Well, and it's the reason that I got this version is because I'm like, oh, well, this is just as good as buying the Master System version, which is comparatively expensive.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it. It kind of it's basically like, it reminds me of like the KO Flying Squadron demo disc for Sega CD, where that's literally the full game. It's just the demo screen, and the demo end screen triggers after like I think stage 2. But you can still input the code for stage select, so you can select stage 3 and play the rest of the game.
That's funny.
I wonder what...
Okay, I apparently don't know something about how you pick up boxes underneath in this game. Or maybe I can jump up there with a box.
I wonder what Joe from GameSack thinks about Castle of Illusion on Master System.
Oh, I mean, I bet he likes it, because I mean, Coury likes it too.
Yeah, I know Castle of Illusion's like...
I'm sure I could just butt stomp. Of course, you could just butt stomp those. Why was I not thinking of that?
I know Castle of Illusion's like one of his favorite Genesis games.
Oh yeah, well, and I gotta say, like, as someone who grew up with Capcom Disney games, I really didn't think I was going to take a shine to the Sega Disney games, but man, they are pretty equal in a lot of
I will
ways.
say this: if you were a big Disney Capcom fan, if you're sticking with primarily the NES, you got screwed if your favorite was Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I did have Mickey Mousecapade as a kid, and it's not great. I definitely played it. I didn't play it that much, but I just could never really figure out how to get very far. But I did pick up a copy of it a few years ago, because I'm like, all right, I feel like I've got finished business with this game. Or excuse me, unfinished business. All right, we're going back into the bowl. Hopefully we pull out games that I'm going to skip this one just because I'm going to play it on a Backloggery stream in a few weeks. It's Shinobi 2. It's really good.
Yeah.
I've already played through Shinobi 1, which is right here. I think I played that on a MLiG stream, but I'm not sure. It could have been like that Mr. Marathon we did, but oh, okay. This is not a game I think we'll be playing for very long just because of the nature of it being kind of an RPG, but I'll pop it in anyway. Let's see what happens.
But yeah, fun thing about Mickey Mousecapade, though, that was not developed by Capcom. That was developed by Hudson Soft. Capcom just published it.
Oh, by the way, you see that garbage? That's because I flipped, just out of curiosity, I flipped the switch, the Master System mode switch.
Yeah, told you. It puts the colors of Master System mode onto the handheld with that switch. It only affects Master System mode. It doesn't affect Game Gear mode.
I was experimenting just then with the Master of Darkness cartridge to see if, like, oh, could the switch have been the reason some certain games couldn't be read, but that seems to not have been the reason.
I don't think so. Like I said, it only really affects the Master System mode.
I really like the sort of, like, you know, very small, not so much like the more like 8-bit style character sprites in the Shining Force Game Gear games. Like, you know, they're much larger sprites on the Genesis, but, you know, these guys have a comfy 8-bit feel to them, which I like. You can tell that they're updating background tiles for that crowd of characters, just the way it kind of like they lag behind each other. The fact that there's no save files on here indicates the battery is probably dead in this.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe assumption to make. I do wonder, though, like, how this game interacts with the save RAM, because if it can function without the RAM, like, the game can just play, it might be possible to replace the RAM with a FE RAM chip, so you don't need a battery anymore.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought it would be possible to just swap to a different format like that.
As long as the signals line up, it is possible. FE RAM mods have been getting a lot more popular recently. Like the Game Boy mods, a lot of people have just been using FE RAM chips in place of traditional SRAM. But some cartridges still have the battery, but for the real-time clock. Which I say is actually a smarter use of FE RAM, because it's like the biggest drainer of like Gen 2 Pokemon games is the real-time clock.
Yeah.
That's always active. So you have real-time clock plus RAM equals a much shorter lifespan of the battery. So once you take out the RAM, then the battery only controls the real-time clock, meaning that the lifespan would be equal to that of like the Gen 1 games, for example.
Mm.
And a lot of those still have their saves to this day.
So yeah, that's just interesting because I remember when Coury was like way into dumping the saves off of all of our games, like systems like the Game Boy Advance that have a mixture of battery backup, EEPROM, and flash. When you dump the saves, they're all in different formats, like per save type. Like I thought they would all just be the same file format, but they had different file extensions depending on what type of save memory was used.
Yeah. I think it has to do with like the emulators that that are commonly used with them. It's kind of like how most NES games, when dumped or running on emulators, they have an INES header. Like, it's just a format. It's just a format that is commonly used with emulation devices. That's my guess, anyways.
I actually have a disc-only version of the Sega CD, which is very rare. Like, I do actually have a few disc-only Sega CD games. It's like the only system that I actually have any disc-only games for. I do just happen to have a disc of this. It's like the 2 Game Gear games for Sega CD. I find Sega CD to be such a pain in the butt, though.
Yeah.
Mine actually needs to be recapped. I didn't even notice it myself, but like when I shot, this was some years ago, so it probably needs to be recapped even more so now. I need to actually get around and getting something done about it, but like I was showing Artemio some B-roll. He's like, "Oh, your Sega CD needs to be recapped."
Tychus, just to answer your question real quick, the corrupt graphics is because your ROM chip was most likely disconnected, or the memory mapper chip. So either way, you would probably need a full reflow in regards of fixing your Pokemon Red cartridge. Let's see.
Look how the character who's nearest the portrait with like that blue shawl, when one of her poses, the bottom pixel on like the tip of her hood is accidentally transparent, so you can see the grass through it.
Yeah.
Oops.
You know what I do find surprising, though? I don't think I see much homebrew being developed for the Game Gear or Master System. I mean, they exist, but not to the same quantity as like NES or Genesis. Like, not even close.
Oh, this character can move. All right, let's see. I have no idea if this is going to switch to like a different battle screen or what. Let's see. Oh, that's not bad.
So I will say this. I haven't played much of Shining Force, and I don't think I will. And the reason why is because while I do love RPGs, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy them. Strategy RPGs are ones that I don't like. As a kid, I found them too easy, but as an adult, I find them just a little bit too eh.
I don't like I don't like real-time strategy games very much, but I do enjoy, you know, the mostly like Japanese like turn-based games like this. Like your Fire Emblem. I don't like Shine Force as much as like, you know, Fire Emblem or
Yeah, I personally,
I like it.
I personally like traditional, like more traditional turn-based RPGs, like the Final Fantasy games. I'm getting more into Dragon Quest. I didn't like it at first when I was a kid because I didn't like the fact you couldn't see your avatars. But you know, as it kind of started growing on me as I gotten older. Especially the music from the first game is just kind of like embedded in my brain. Like to the point, there was one day while I was walking around at work, I was going, doo, 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 doo. My coworkers were like kind of looking around like, what the hell is he doing? But
yeah, I mean this seems like a good handheld conversion of Shining Force, I would say.
Yes. Funny enough, while I'm not that big of a fan of Shining Force, I am a big fan of this the developers' other RPGs. More specifically, Beyond the Beyond. I actually enjoyed.
That's a game that I have been so curious about for a long time, and like most people say, like, oh, it's not worth it, but I'm like, oh, I don't know, it looks kind of fun.
It's basically a proto Golden Sun, which makes sense because it's the same developers.
I liked Golden Sun, like 1 and 2 back when I didn't like 2 that much until like the second half of the game when the story got back on track. But yeah, the third game, I was like, oh my gosh, the characters just never stop talking. And then people were like, well, that's how the first 2 games were. They were exactly like this. I'm like, really? I just don't remember them being so unforgivingly talky and like with little emoticons popping up all the time, taking so long for the event scenes to play out. I guess I just didn't mind it so much with the first 2 games, but yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed Golden Sun 1. I remember my uncle introduced me to it because he was playing it. Golden Sun 2 or New Age, Dark Age, I can't remember what the second one was. I didn't play much of it or as much of it, but I found it kind of interesting that like it was basically the same story, just kind of in a different perspective. And I guess it was just a carryover. And then I later learned that that was a carryover idea from Shining Force 3, where I think there were like 3 different games.
Yeah,
called
right.
Shining
And
Force
only
3.
the first one got localized officially.
Yeah, it was. Whereas 2 and 3, it was the same story, but told from a different perspective. And I thought that was a pretty interesting idea.
Yeah.
But now I just kind of wish that Camelot would go back to doing some of these more interesting RPGs. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't hate their output with Nintendo, but I'm like, you can put down the sports games for a moment, Camelot. Like, please go back to Golden Sun. Or heck, contact Sega, do another Shining Force. You know, I mean, I might not play it, but I'm pretty sure a lot of fans would love to play a new Shining Force.
Yeah, I mean, I think a new Golden Sun would sell crazy good because, like, you know, Nintendo kind of finally has their big like first party RPG series with Xenoblade, right? Like, and I think they see that, you know, those kinds of games can be successful now. You know, they were probably much more skeptical of them generations ago.
I joked with a couple of friends of mine, Like, can you imagine if Monolith Soft, the developers behind Xenoblade, was contracted to do Pokemon?
Oh my gosh.
It would be It would be a very expansive overworld, but man, the story would be so melodramatic.
Yeah, well, and Pokemon doesn't really need that, I don't think. But yeah, they do provide a lot of like technical support, like even for like the Zelda games recently, you know? I mean, it seems like Monolith in a lot of ways is kind of Nintendo's like tech powerhouse in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they did help with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild as well. Like, when it comes to making the most out of like underpowered hardware, they're good at it. Like, they're really good at it.
I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles X, like on the freaking Wii U, I think is still like that, and Tears of the Kingdom, I think, are the most like technologically interesting open worlds that I've ever played in my opinion.
And now everyone gets to play Xenoblade Chronicle X. And I was like, finally, it's coming out so people can shut up about it.
Yeah. I mean, I really like that game. Like, I know it doesn't have nearly the story that, I mean, I for one, like, could take or leave the stories of the other Xenoblade games anyway. They're fine, but they're not, like, amazing to me. I like the settings more than anything. But yeah, I like Xenoblade X. I think the battle system is it's weird because of like how you heal is not obvious at first. That's definitely a little confusing. Like, you have to like basically keep your party happy. Like, you have to like kind of balance, like, okay, I was working on this combo, but this party member wants me to do this attack. And if you keep your party happy, then their HP kind of just magically stays up. And that's kind of how you play the game, really. And it's got this like mixture of like close range and ranged combat with every class. And then it's got like a great, like, you know, kind of FF5 style class system where you can combine traits of the classes you've mastered together. It's really, really good. The only thing I didn't like was that the mech battle system, and well, it's really more like how to equip your mech was never really explained, and it has, how you equip the mech has a lot to do with what their ability loadout is and stuff like that. I never really got that figured out. I should have researched that much more when that part of the game started, because I didn't enjoy the second part quite as much due to the mech focus. I'm actually kind of amazed I beat the game because I did really bad with the mechs in the final battle, but somehow I got through. So I really want to replay it on Switch, understanding the mech stuff a bit better. Okay, cool. Well, we got through a battle in Shining Force. How about it?
Nice.
Probably time to switch to something else, though. So let's see
to answer your question, Ashura, I did not have audio buzz issues with my. I did not have audio buzz issues with my PC Engine, so I'd suggest probably checking to make sure that none of your caps are bad. But yeah, I would just be interested to see like what else Monolith Soft does outside of Zelda and Xenoblade. Because like they got a lot of talent. Like, they are stupidly good at making like these expansive immersive worlds on Nintendo systems, which are traditionally so underpowered.
Yeah. Well, and just the way that they're world scale. Like, I mean, that's one of the reasons I love Xenoblade Chronicles X, is because the way that you go from just being this little dude running around, you know, in the city, you get in your mech and you just fly straight out of the city, no loading or anything, and it just scales up from fighting tiny monsters to find huge monsters, you know, gigantic mountain passes that, you know, before you had a mech, you could, you know, were a big part of the world design that you had to venture through, is nothing when you're a mech. And then when you can fly as a mech and then get to the islands in the sky, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like like Nintendo, between Monolith and you know, the Zelda team, I think they've made the most interesting open worlds in video games, and on underpowered hardware. Like, no one does as nearly as ambitious a stuff on these more powerful systems in terms of open world design. But yes, this is Revenge of Drancon. That is what, for some reason, Wonder Boy is called on the Game Gear. It's just Wonder Boy. It's Wonder Boy 1.
Totally not Adventure Island. Two separate games. No, don't worry about it.
Not at all. Not at all.
Actually, I think the story is that, like, Wonder Boy came out first, and then Hudson made their own version with Adventure Island, and then from there they just split off.
I forget. Yeah, I forget exactly what the details. Well, I mean, that is basically. I mean, you're right. But oh, I guess I'm going to a mini game or something. That is pretty much it. Like, I don't remember why Hudson had a different like character in their port of the game. If there was a reason it was like exclusive to something or something, but they were able to still like just use the game. I mean, it was Adventure Island 1, it was all on the up and up. It wasn't like, you know, they were just like copying the game. But yeah, absolutely. Then like Adventure Island 2, it's not based on any Wonder Boy game, you know, and so forth. Like they had, and of course Wonder Boy didn't really go back to this style of game anyway. Like, Adventure Island was the one that carried the torch of this formula. With your Takahashi Meijin. Yeah, because this series went more in like the kind of side-scrolling action RPG route. Aside from, like, I guess Monster Lair, which is, I guess, sort of like this, but it's also kind of a shooter. It's like an auto-scrolling something. I guess it's sort of like this, but not really.
And then you have Hudson throwing a wrench in all of it when it came to like the TurboGrafx 16 and Turbo CD.
Oh yeah,
like you had I think Wonder Boy 3 was Dragon's Curse, and then Dynastic Heroes was
oh yeah,
Monster World, I think.
It was, yeah, Monster World 3.
Yeah, and I'm like, really? It's like, you guys are doing this again. Okay.
Yeah, it's a mess. I'm entertained by what a mess it is, though.
It makes an already confusing situation even more confusing, because you have two ports of two Wonder Boy games that had their names and some of their characters changed, but they are legally distinct, even though they really aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I just love though that it's that, you know, you have something like Adventure Island that just started out as a port with a different character, and then it became its own series. It's like, not like, that's, I don't know, that's cool. I feel like there's another example of something similar that happened like that, and I can't think off the top of my head of what it could have been, though. So I used to not like the original Wonder Boy or Adventure Island very much, but it's definitely grown on me over the years.
Okay, so I'm trying to verify this, but according to Jazim, Dragon Curse was called Adventure Island on PC Engine in Japan.
Oh no! Oh, I think you're right.
It was.
Oh, I forgot
Oh my
about that.
God.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, but they don't call those games Adventure Island in Japan. The Adventure Island, it's Takahashi Meijin no Bokenjima. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the PC Engine new Adventure Island is Shin Takahashi Meijin no Bokenjima.
The rabbit hole gets deeper. It just gets deeper.
This was this whole concept was like this big tentpole video idea we had, like, gosh, really early in the channel. We were like, oh, we want to do like a complete Wonder Boy series video, and it was just we were talking about that like we now talk about, like, well, you know, when we get Analog Frontiers Part 4 done, or when we I got the thing that I think steals all your food away.
Womp womp.
But yeah, we used to talk about it when, you know, like, oh yeah, we're going to do that Wonder Boy. I mean, the same kind of, you know, we're like, oh, when Analog Frontiers Part 4 is done. Oh, when, I made it anyway. When we get the Dreamcast RGB video out, you know, early in the channel, like, I don't think we talked about it publicly so much, probably because we didn't like stream so much at the time. We were, you know, but it was always something we were talking about. It was like, oh yeah, like we spent a lot of time preparing to do this big Wonder Boy Monster World Adventure Island complete video, and just never got it done. Honestly, it would probably be comparatively easy for us to do nowadays, aside from, I guess, like the length of some of these games. But it honestly probably wouldn't be that difficult. Like, we should revisit it. I mean, I don't know if it would be very popular. It would probably not be worth the effort, but we should talk about doing that again. We really should.
Retronauts did a Wonder Boy timeline once, and you could sense how exhausted the hosts were by the end of the episode.
Yeah, and you know, I forget who it was, but someone, what? It might have been Gaming Historian. I honestly forget who it was, but you know, someone in the retro scene definitely did like a pretty complete Wonder Boy video, and I think that kind of, whoa, the fox that comes after you when you pass the flower looks weird. Maybe I'm just used to the Adventure Island version. I don't remember him looking that way in Wonder Boy though. This is Revenge of Drancon though, a distinct game,
legally distinct. Personally, when it comes to like the Adventure Island series, like I prefer the direction that Wonder Boy took it. Mainly because like I feel more engaged when it's like it has a more action RPG kind of style to it.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Which is also why, like, when it comes to the Adventure Island games, I prefer Super Adventure Island 2.
I mean, I came around to liking the Adventure Island formula. I mean, I definitely overall think similarly, I would say. I do like the Wonder Boy games more, but the purity and simplicity of the Adventure Island games like definitely won me over eventually, especially like I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they do kind of go in some different directions, because like the NES games in a lot of ways are like more complex than the later, like 2 and 3 at least, and the Game Boy ones, which are based on those NES games. Like they've got like the dinosaurs you can ride and stuff like that. They've got some extra elements to them, whereas like the Super Nintendo and TurboGrafx ones are a little more straightforward, but I also really like that straightforwardness to them as well. Like, I mean, these were like alongside Super Mario Brothers, these were among the first games in that style, you know, that kind of pioneering it. Obviously not as polished and mechanically advanced as Super Mario Brothers, but you know, they were among those first games, and I think they did some pretty good stuff with it, honestly. So yeah, I actually like, especially the PC Engine one. I think is like, that is the best that the kind of the really straightforward Adventure Island games really got. I would say, you know, the ones that don't have like the dinosaur riding or the RPG elements of Adventure Island 2, stuff like that.
Yeah. Actually, another one that I enjoy from the Adventure Island series would be Adventure Island 4, the one that we didn't get.
Which is much more of like a Metroidvania, I believe.
Yes. Doesn't have a save feature though, which is interesting for a Metroidvania style game. You'd expect like, especially so late, you'd expect like a save system, but nope.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to put more time into that. I don't own it because it's quite expensive. Okay. Okay. We're going to see this. I don't think I've tried this one.
See, I own it because I have an English reproduction of it, so I would imagine that it would be much more difficult to play it when it's in Japanese. It has a password feature. Yeah, I know it has a password feature. I was just saying, like, with how late it is, you would have probably guessed it would have been it had a save feature, but I guess they just wanted to. Oh, well, I guess they didn't want to put that much resources in the last Famicom game either. So I guess it makes sense.
So this is the one I was talking about, where I saw it at, I want to say Retro World, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Probably about 3 years ago, I'd say. And I was like,
Legend of Illusion?
Yeah, and I'm like, what is this? I didn't know there was another one. You know, because there is no game called World of Illusion on Game Gear or Master System, is there? I mean, I know there is on Genesis, of course, but there's no World of Illusion for these systems, right? I don't think. So yeah, and there's certainly no Legend of Illusion on Genesis. So yeah, this was, I'm like, Legend of Illusion. That is totally unknown to me.
When it comes to Game Gear and Master System, it was Castle of Illusion, Castle of Illusion, Land of Illusion, and Legend of Illusion.
I love this Castle Goofstein. Oh, look at my hat.
I don't know what the reception of Legend of Illusion is. I mainly knew about it because of the fact that it got a Brazilian Master System release, but that's about where my knowledge of it starts and ends.
I mean, it seems mechanically similar, but more advanced, I suppose. Oh, look at this. That's kind of neat.
I do like the little outfit they got Mickey on.
Yeah. It actually kind of has a vibe that's a little closer to like the Capcom Super Nintendo Mickey games.
Oh, the Magical Quest games?
Yeah.
Which I still need to get my hands on all 3 of them for the Super Famicom.
Yeah, I don't think even the third one last I saw. I mean, I've had it for a while, so I haven't been looking at the price, but like it didn't used to be expensive, so
I think I don't think they're called Magical Quest over in Japan. I think
they're just called like I think it's just like Mickey and Minnie,
Mickey and Donald,
and then Mickey and Donald. I think
Mickey Donald Magical Adventure 3. So they're called Magical Adventure. So let's see. A loose copy of 3 would run you about 30-ish bucks.
Not bad. I don't think it's changed much then.
Let's see. Oh, here's a bundle that's interesting. Magical Quest 1, 2, 3, and the Donald Duck game for Super Famicom.
Which one is that? That sounds so familiar, but I forgot there was a Donald Duck game, I guess.
Well, I remember there was one for Game Gear and
That's
Master System.
How he pulls that
out. Is this Maui Mallard? No, it's a completely different game for Maui Mallard. It's called Donald Duck's Magic Cap.
I feel like I've looked that up before, and I can't remember much about it.
It seems to take inspiration from, what's the game called? Deep Duck Trouble?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got... I always forget which one is which, but I played one. I definitely played one of them on that Mr. Marathon, but I can't remember. It would have been whichever one came first.
Yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, this looks like an interesting game. I might look into this lot.
I can't figure out how to do this part, but so far, like this is quite solid and very comparable to the other Illusion games. How do I do this? Yeah, instead of, you don't have the butt stomp, but you do have these like little peas or whatever they are that you throw. Why can't I figure out how to jump off this thing? Oh, there we go. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, this is quite a pleasant one. I found it. I think it was earlier. Yeah, I think I got this earlier this year, actually. Oh wait, that's that monkey-looking thing is a friend. If I can grab him. There we go. Oops.
Okay, now I'm starting to understand why this lot's price tag is $68.80.
Okay,
It's because the two expensive games are the two expensive games are the ones that are have Donald in it, which is kind of interesting to think about.
Okay, I think I understand this. When you're hanging from something, I think you have to hold up when you hit the jump button. Otherwise, you just fall when you hit the jump button. Like, up, yeah, okay, up, yeah, there we go. That's if I do that while that's swinging, there we go. Although I don't see a point of getting up here. Oh, maybe can I grab that? Oh, I can't?
Force is not strong in this one.
Oh, that looks like a 1-up. Mickey's all about that. Heck yeah. Yeah, this is good. I like this. Oh, wow. Retro Morgan says, this is the first game I remember beating. Very cool. Wow, so Mickey just ran into a random Sphinx. Duckingham Palace. Yeah, this has a different vibe from the other games, I would say, but I like it. It's similar, but it's its own thing as well. I don't know of a Master System version or anything.
Well, the Master System version is just going to be the same game, just with more screen resolution.
Yeah. Exactly. But I believe it was looking like how do I make that pop out? It was looking like the next like public firmware update for RetroTink might include the profiles that I made, so that'd be cool. It's the first time I've like officially submitted like a RetroTink profile, really. It's something I should definitely do more often with like all of like the pre-scaling things I like to do and things. Oh, maybe I need to get into that door. There's gotta be something to that. How do I get that to pop out? Well, anyway, probably should switch to another game anyway. How many we got left in here? We got 9.
How many do we have left at work?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've been on. We had like it seemed like all the ones that didn't work were like all in a cluster. Yeah, you know what I should also do later, just out of curiosity, is see if those carts will boot on the Mega SG or Analog Pocket.
Oh, do you have the adapters for those?
Mm-hmm. Well, both Game Gear adapter came with them. You didn't have to buy like a special adapter for Game Gear.
I don't think.
Oh no! You're right. For now you say that for Mega SG, I think I have the Game Gear adapter for Mega SG. I'm pretty sure I do. But I definitely it came with the Analog Pocket. I'm positive of that. At least it came with the review units, I which were packaged as retail units. So I assume Analog Pocket included that.
So the Mega SG did not come with the Game Gear adapter.
It came with the Master
System
later. It came with Master System. That's what I'm getting confused on.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, it was either that Master System adapter or the Game Gear adapter they had to recall.
You're right. You're right. I forgot about that.
And I remember when I got my Mega SG, which, if for anyone wondering, no, I don't have it anymore. I was when I got it, I didn't bother with the recall because I was like, it's in the box. I'm not going to use it. So I didn't see any point in returning it because like I wasn't even going to use it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Master System adapter for Mega SG because, you know, it lets you use the pause button on the controller. So,
True.
But yeah, the bad one, it just had like a bad like capacitor value or something, or like connected to the wrong trace or something. I forget. But the bad one, I just like took like a piece of duct tape and just wrote the word bad on it and just like covered the cartridge slot with that tape so I would never accidentally use it.
There was a recall for the Mega SG. No, Stefan, it's not the Mega SG itself that was recalled. It was the Master System adapter that came with it. There was a critical flaw with it that they had to address in a later batch.
It could damage the Mega SG.
Yeah, it could damage the Mega SG, which is funny because they're supposed to be unbreakable. Which, funny enough, I remember when you brought that up on the NT Mini video, my immediate thought was, oh, I'll be the judge of that. Let's see.
So does anyone know, is this the first or second Donald Duck game on Game Gear?
Is this Lucky Dime Caper? Or Deep Duck Trouble?
This is, because the one here is the Lucky Dime. I think this is the second one.
So Lucky Dime Caper was the first one.
Okay,
Deep Duck Trouble was second.
Okay, because that's what I thought. This is the one I have not finished, but I have finished Lucky Dime Caper.
Both of which also did get Master System ports, by the way.
Yeah, I remember playing like the first like level or so with this. It has like that hot pepper thing that I'm pretty sure that's not in Lucky Dime Caper.
Actually, I'm curious. Do I have a copy of it? Huh.
I mean, as you can see from my selection of games, there's a lot of good Disney games on Game Gear.
Well, all my Master System and Game Gear games are literally right behind me. So, I just turned around and was like, oh, I do have Deep Duck Trouble and Lucky Dime Caper on Master System.
I really gotta figure out like I'm going to mention this in my room tour video, like my current methods for storing handheld games are kind of at their limit. I'm going to have to come up with yet another idea for how to do it.
I was sent 2 Game Boy trays and a Game Boy Advance tray by Blue Shell. And I was reluctant to use them at first because I had like some little storage containers that I purchased from Daiso that fit them perfectly. But then those started getting filled out. So I was like, you know what? I'll give the trays a try. So I keep all my legitimate games in the trays, and I keep any of my bootlegs or reproductions in the Daiso containers now.
This level is running at half speed like almost the entire time. The previous screen wasn't doing that. This screen, man, though. This is some Castlevania the Adventure going on here.
It's running pretty sluggish.
It definitely is.
I would say this would probably be the point where it benefits more on being on the Master System, but I wonder if it also being on the Master System is why it's sluggish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much, if anything, about if there's any power benefit to Master System. Is there?
Well, there's a wider screen resolution, which
right, but like, does the CPU run any faster or anything like that?
That I don't know. Technically speaking, the Game Gear is just it is a beefed up Master System. It can handle more colors. It supports
Oh,
stereo.
it's beefed up.
So technically speaking, the Game Gear version should be better.
Oh, okay. You know, something that's always confused me, like ever since the Analog NT, actually, with the initial jailbreak core stuff. ColecoVision is often in FPGA stuff, like shares a core with Master System, and like surely there's more to the, like surely the Master System and ColecoVision aren't exactly the same. Like there's got to be something more to the Master System that the ColecoVision doesn't have, right? Or is Master System really just nothing more than a ColecoVision, and it's just that the games look more advanced because artists and programmers got better? Like surely there's got, like my guess would be that Master System has everything a ColecoVision does, so ColecoVision can run on a Master System core, but surely there's, like, because ColecoVision games can look nice, but like Master System and Game Gear are just on another level. Like there's got to be a technical advantage to Master System and Game Gear over ColecoVision, but I don't.
Well, just so you know, there is an adapter being made to play ColecoVision on Master System. So,
Ooh. Would it also be possible to? Could you make the Tower of Power even more Tower of Power by playing that on a Genesis with a power base converter or power base mini FM? Because that would be kind of incredible.
maybe, but it really depends on if the ColecoVision specifically looks for specific. It depends on the ColecoVision needs the SG-1000 hardware or not. That's where it's going to be the Achilles heel.
Oh, okay. That's really that is actually of great interest to me. If that does come to pass, because I have more nostalgia for ColecoVision than Atari, because my cousin's family had I don't know if they had an Atari, but I think they did. They did have an Atari, but they had like an adapter for ColecoVision that you could play Atari games through it. And but I you know, like games like Smurf and the Coleco version of Donkey Kong, like I definitely have more nostalgia for that than Atari. You know, so yeah, that would actually be quite interesting to me. I would say I'd be very interested by that. I don't have my actual Master System connected, just because it just takes up too much space.
So I sent you a link on where to get it. They are available now. According to this, though, it says not working with the power base converter for the Mega Drive / Genesis.
Still, that is interesting.
So let's see.
That actually makes me wonder as well. Like obviously the Master System has an RGB palette. Does ColecoVision have an RGB palette? Like, does it?
So, you can RGB mod a ColecoVision.
Yeah. Believe me. Oh, I know it. I had poor experience trying to get that done many years ago when I was, I would say, too trusting of anyone smart enough to be able to mod things. I was just like, wow, you can do that? You're a genius. And that's not necessarily the case with everyone offering to mod these things. That's all I'll say about that. But yeah, my ColecoVision needs redoing.
Well,
That's all I'll say.
Hey, you know what? Hey, you got Game Gear games that need to be fixed. So hey,
If you are unopposed to doing it, and you can point me to the parts to buy and send you, I would love to get a functioning ColecoVision, or to turn my ColecoVision into a functioning one.
well, good thing you said that, because I am now throwing you a link to the more definitive RGB board.
Ooh.
It's called the TMS RGB. It's used with ColecoVision, SG-1000, I think MSX as well. It's any that use a very specific TMS chip.
Very cool. Sounds like I will have a few links to check out when we're done here. And this started to go, but then we're on this screen.
So just be sure to send me the power supply as well, because I don't have a working power supply for ColecoVision. I have the giant brick, but unfortunately my brick is basically brucked.
I can do this. I can do this indeed. It is a big old thing too.
Yeah, this as soon as I got one, I'm like, oh my god. When they people talk about power bricks, this is a power brick.
It is. I mean, you know, personally, I never really understood the backlash to. I mean, wall warts suck, but power bricks with, the actual brick in the middle of the wire rather than where you plug it, where you plug it in, that is annoying when it's a wall wart. But like I like external power supplies because it's like, well, why wouldn't you take something that for one often needs to be serviced, and two, in general, just generates more heat within the console. Like I don't see a downside to taking that external other than physical space, but like the benefits for the console itself, like I just think it makes sense to take that stuff outside the console because it runs hot, and
So
it just seems easier to replace if it's outside the console.
yeah. When it comes to ColecoVision, the board is actually the smaller part. Most of the space is being occupied by the controller bay, actually.
Huh.
It's a large system, but only because they decided to put a little cubby for your controllers. Other than that, there's not really much going on inside.
Yeah. I mean, and my ColecoVision is in good shape. I mean, it was my cousin's family's ColecoVision, so it's in quite, as are all the games I have for it from what they owned. This Sonic 2 does seem to run faster than Sonic 1. Like it just seems to have less slowdown. I remember this is the only Game Gear game really that I mean, it's like the most common Game Gear game too, I guess.
I know a lot of people hate this game.
And probably everyone had it, so a lot of people can hate it. It's definitely a strange setting, like this mines for like the opening world of a Sonic game. That's definitely strange. But I do remember, like, my friend who, like, I was confused. I'm like, why do you have gear for a Game Boy but not a Game Boy? I definitely remember playing this on his Game Gear when, he showed me his Game Gear, and I'm like, oh, is this the same game as the Master System Sonic 2?
They are identical, yes. But yeah, like what this person says, Nenson Dubois. The Master System version does contain a few different songs, including the boss battle.
Well, I got the Master System versions of Sonic 2 and Sonic Chaos.
So Sonic Chaos, I think, is a
this year.
different game on Game Gear.
Oh, okay. Oops.
But when it comes to the Master System version of Sonic 2, that's the one you want to play. Mainly because you're not... the biggest issue that people have with... Yeah, that people have with this game is screen crunch.
Yeah.
So you're not prepared for what's in front of you.
Is this one developed by Ancient like the first one, or is it totally different?
I think it's developed by the same team.
Cool.
Which, fun fact, I think the bridge stage of Sonic 1 was sampled by Janet Jackson.
Oh.
For one of her songs.
Why did Robotnik save me?
So you could die to the crabs.
Is this the boss that I saw some people earlier in the stream saying like, oh, I want to see Try fight that first boss in Sonic 2.
I think this is the boss battle.
Yeah, it does seem obnoxious. Definitely seems like one I would like to play on Master System.
Yeah.
And does it have no continues? That's kind of wild if so. All right, we're going back into the bowl of games. Oh, okay. This one we probably won't play for too long because it's you know what to expect from this game. But it's a game I do love a lot.
Oh, also, Kyle McLean, you wanted more information about the trays here. They're called K-Tools Super Pack. The model number is D5650. You can find these at Daiso for like $1.25. But I use them to contain my Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games.
Why does the title screen for Puyo Puyo say Puzlowkids?
That is a good question.
Puzlowkids. You know, Puzlowkids. This is a Japanese. I don't think this game. I mean, certainly not with the Puyo characters. Certainly didn't. What quest game? What is it? What is a quest? What? Start. Continue. What is? Oh my gosh! Is my mind about to be blown? Eliminate all red P kids.
So apparently, according to Ashura, that was the original name for Puyo Puyo.
Okay, huh. Oh, I thought I had to do it all in just one. Okay, I screwed up. Oh, or is it just going to be endless? I thought maybe it's just endless. I thought it was going to be somewhere I had to... Wait, did those... Oh, those are those. I thought that they were just like colored differently, but they're not. Oh, I see. Okay, so it looks like they're not forcing me to like do it within a certain number of turns. You know, something I noticed that I thought was kind of interesting when I was testing out the Game Boy Color. The black cart games. I was like, you know, in a lot of ways, the ones that can be played on original Game Boy are probably actually like the best Puyo games for colorblind people. You know?
Yeah.
Because they're designed with different shades and dithering patterns, like, you know, either, you know, checkerboard or vertical lines.
I just find it interesting that early in Puyo's life, Sega, for some reason, wanted to avoid calling it Puyo in the West. Like, did everything possible to not acknowledge its original name. Like, you had you have this game here. Then you have Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
But again, this is a Japanese cartridge. I don't think this was there a Mean Bean Machine for Game Gear? I think there was.
Yes.
Wasn't there?
Yes, but
so I think this is Japanese, and just for some reason calls it Puzlowkids.
So according to Ashura, it's a BIOS thing. So it's kind of like similar to Neo Geo. If the BIOS is set to a specific region, the games will play based on your BIOS settings.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense.
So since this isn't, which I didn't even know that Game Gear had a region BIOS. That's actually news to me.
This is interesting though, because I have never, I've never seen Puyo Puyo 1 with this game mode. I mean, this is, oh, do I have to do it all at the same time? Okay, well, I probably screwed up then. Oh, what? Give up? Yes. No. It's nice to give you passwords. That I assume the regular. So putting the Japanese game in a US Game Gear gives this, but this there was no cartridge released in a region where you would see this title, right? So is this title screen only visible due to having imported the game? Like under normal conditions, there would never be anyone seeing this title screen, right?
Yeah, it's basically a case of the difference in region resulted in a different title screen, but it did not come out like this originally.
That is really cool. Oh, they're definitely, well, maybe, it's probably not actually. I was going to say, I think they're slow. Well, the way they rotate seems slow. It does seem like there may be slowdown here due to running the computer's game next to me. But, otherwise, other than that bit of slowdown here, like this seems like a really good version of Puyo Puyo 1. Like it's got more game modes than I've ever seen in another version of this game. So I'm rather surprised / impressed.
I was talking about earlier how Puyo Puyo, like early on, they just seem to like pretend that it's not Puyo Puyo. But
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, not just early on. Like it's really only. Well, I was going to say recent. It's not really that recent, I guess. But they, because I think starring like GameCube. Like you've got Puyo Puyo Fever on GameCube. Maybe it might also be on PS2. I forget.
But another game I can think of that got similar treatment was Panel de Pon.
Yeah.
That one got it the worst. Like we got it. We got the Super Famicom version as Tetris Attack here with Yoshi's. I think in Europe it was called I think Kirby's Avalanche.
Well, that's Puyo Puyo. It's Kirby's Avalanche.
So that's Puyo Puyo.
And they call it. I think it's called Kirby's. It's the same Kirby theming in Europe, but I think I want to say it's called Kirby's Ghost Trap or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called.
But
in Europe.
Panel de Pon is just Tetris Attack. I don't think there's another regional variant of that other than the Japanese.
So yeah, there's Tetris Attack, and then for N64, not only did Panel de Pon just flat out not come out on N64 in Japan, but it got repurposed into Pokemon Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And then that game got ported over to the Game Boy Color. It's like what was it with these companies back then and just refusing to acknowledge the origins of puzzle games? Like, what are they scared of Tetris? Like, being like, you can't do that. Like, it's a completely different IP.
Well, I mean, it wasn't Tetris, and you know, I mean, obviously, the reason that they did that was because they just thought, you know, like, you know, cute, colorful fairies would never fly, you know, in America. Like you know, the primary market was, you know, teenage boys, and you know, even thinking about stuff like, you know, Tetris, or not Tetris Stack. I mean, yeah, I mean, they still play with. Wow, this is actually surprisingly hard for. That's actually the hardest I've ever seen that particular character in Puyo Puyo 1B. Not that I was playing my best. But like, you know, when I see like they had to market like Yoshi's Island over here, you know, and they're in their play it loud phase. It's just like, I always laugh about, like, my gosh, like every time I mean, I thought that stuff was cool and enjoyable. You know, your Yoshis and your Kirbys and stuff. I always liked that stuff, but like that would have been very uncool to the average boy my age, right? And I always just thought, like, oh my gosh, the Nintendo of America people, like, every time they got a game from Japan that they had to market, it's just like they probably had to be ripping out their hair, because it's like, how can I make this stuff look cool?
Like Super Mario World 2, it was like just some dude in a freaking diner stuffing his face till he literally exploded. I was like,
they had no clue what to do.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Where did my computer mouse go?
It went into the ether.
I was just checking to make sure we're caught up on everything. Yep, we are.
Trying to figure out what this game is.
This is Defenders of Oasis. Which I think last time I booted this, it did have, yeah, look, it's got saves on it still.
I keep forgetting that this game exists. Like, I'm familiar with Beyond Oasis and crap, what was the Saturn one?
I think it's is it Legend of Oasis? Or
Legend of Oasis,
Legend
yes.
of Oasis, yeah. I've never played that one. I wish I liked do I have healing items? Because it looks like I need one. I never liked Beyond Oasis that much. Like, it's cool what they were going for, but I feel like it just feels very stiff. And at the time that I played it, like, I didn't even really think about how, you know, retro games were almost always 60 FPS, and it just didn't click that part of the reason the game felt stiffer than most other, like, overhead sprite-based action games was, man, the encounter rate in this is pretty unforgiving.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Even for the era, though. But anyway, what was I talking about? I already forgot what was I talking about. Oh, that was actually a pretty long walk between encounters there.
So apparently this game has nothing to do with the other two Oasis games. So I'm like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, ABA said this is cut down from the Genesis version. I don't think it has anything to do with it. I mean, it's not I mean, it's an RPG. It's not, it's not cut down. It's a different game.
Yeah, it's basically just an entirely different game.
It plays different. But yeah, I didn't like Beyond Oasis as much as I wanted to. And like I said, at the time, I didn't think about the, the difference between 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. And I was aware of it, like, to some extent in like 3D games, but I just didn't really think about that very much, like in terms of how the game felt to play. And in 2D games, in 3D games, I argue it doesn't make it does make a big difference, but it's not game breaking to me most of the time if a game has to be 30 frames per second, but it can be for 2D games.
Yeah.
Me. So it definitely reduced the quality of the experience for me. And I just didn't understand at the time why. And there were other things. I just think some of the level design kind of frustrated me. But the main thing though was it felt stiff. It just felt stiff to move about.
See, I liked Beyond Oasis for its presentation.
Absolutely.
Like, Ancient did a really good job at making the game look spectacular, and apparently they're doing a really spectacular job with the next game they're doing, Eartheon.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things from people who've gotten to play it.
Yeah, I looked at that and I was like, oh, like, I need this. I need this. Like, it is a game developed by Yuzo Koshiro's Ancient, which we haven't seen since the 90s.
Time. Yeah. All
right. And it looks so good.
I mean, this, I think this could probably be an all right game, but, obviously, makes no sense just jumping into someone's file and playing around there.
Yeah. It looks like it's trying a lot to be like Dragon Quest in a way, but...
Yeah, I mean, it seems all right.
But to be fair, I don't think you can really do like a Final Fantasy style RPG on the Game Gear, just due to the fact you're limited with screen space. I mean, even Final Fantasy couldn't do that with... Well,
I mean, your Saga games, the Final Fantasy Legends games, I mean, they don't have as advanced of like event scenes, I suppose, as the NES and Super Nintendo games, but
yeah. But actually, it was the Saga games. The
Axe Battler.
I think what I find interesting about the Saga games is that the same team was contracted to make an RPG for quote unquote us Americans. And what we got was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which, I'm going to be honest, it's not a bad game.
No.
It's just...
I like Mystic Quest, but the problem with it is that it's a short game, and even at its short length, it overstays its welcome.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I hear people say it's insulting to American RPG enthusiasts. I don't agree with that statement. I just think it's really boring. Like, for how short of a game it is, it feels so long because it's so boring.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like the way the battle scenes are laid out in that game. I think it's kind of cool. I like. Well, there's a lot of little things that I like about the game that I think are kind of interesting.
Mystic Quest has a GOAT soundtrack though. Oh yeah, I agree that Mystic Quest has a freaking legendary soundtrack.
Oh yeah, I forgot about how this game, like, your random encounters take you into kind of Zelda 2 style action scenes. I've played a little bit of this before, but not much.
I find it funny how it's like We have Dragon Quest style overworld, but Zelda 2 battles.
Yeah. Well, I think this proportion of character fits better on a handheld screen. Like, I feel like that skinny Link style that was like on the overworld in Zelda 2 would be weird. And obviously your I would say your mechanics here are not as robust as what you can do in Zelda 2, certainly. Oh, that's interesting. Like, that guy hit me once and just knocked me out of the fight. Oh, that's a neat kind of river animation. I'm into that. Look at that. Look at that river go.
It pulses.
It does. It wriggles and writhes. Oh, I think crossing the bridge was a bad idea. Let's not cross the bridge. Dragon Quest taught me that's dangerous.
You ever notice how, like, with Golden, what is this, like the second game to try to do something different for Golden Axe? Because you have this game, and then you have Golden Axe Warrior, I think it's called, on the Master System.
Yeah, which is so expensive. I mean, it seems so good, but I want Zelda. It real bad, but it's expensive.
Yeah, it's Zelda, but for the Master System. And they don't even try to hide it.
No, oh, and that's like actually what I love about okay, so we've got an actual like scrolling stage, although you're pretty close to the edge before it. You'll have a lot of look room here. Pretty close to the edge before it scrolls, unfortunately, but it seems decent. But yeah, like I kind of love that about that era of Zelda clone, because they're just like stuff like Newtopia, like they're just so shameless that I kind of love it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, yeah, like it's pretty on the nose. I don't know, something about like really on the nose Zelda clones, just, I don't know. It's weird, but it kind of appeals to me.
Yeah, it's like they don't even try to hide what they are, and yet there's like a charm to it too. Like another one of my favorite games on the Turbo Graphics 16 would be Newtopia.
Yeah.
Like that is just like that is straight up Zelda. Like, I'm sorry, that is Link in a night suit and no hat.
Yep. But you know what's interesting about that too? I guess maybe one of the other reasons I like that kind of unabashed clone is that those games really are taking after Zelda 1, and Zelda never really had that kind of sequel again. Like yeah, Link's Awakening takes after that, but it expands the formula so much. And those games like Newtopia and Golden Axe Warrior, I've not really played that much Golden Axe Warrior, so I don't know if I can say for sure, but like Newtopia for sure. And I know I've played other games sort of that era where they really are mostly aping after Zelda 1 specifically. Like it, well, really, in a lot of ways, like something like 3D Dot Game Heroes is almost like kind of a middle ground. Like I would say it takes after Zelda 1 more than anything, although it has some of the more advanced tools from A Link to the Past, that kind of thing. But it's really closer to Zelda 1 on the whole, I would say. So games like that, like they kind of show an expansion on that really simplistic Zelda 1 concept in a way that doesn't go quite as far as Link's Awakening. So it's interesting because it does feel like sequels specifically to Zelda 1 that we never really got from Nintendo. That's my take on it anyway. I think that's why I kind of like that stuff.
Yeah, I feel that like with Link's Awakening, you brought up how it's not quite the Zelda 1 formula. And I feel like that is true because it seems to take more out of Link to the Past than it does Zelda 1. or at least that's how I feel about it.
And I may have said Link's Awakening. I meant to say A Link to the Past.
Okay.
Sometimes when I'm talking, one or the other might just slip out of my mouth, and I might mean the opposite.
Yes, the Game Gear Ninja Gaiden.
I mean, this game isn't great, but it's also like kind of easy. Like I almost beat this on my first try once. I might have streamed it on MLiG. I forget. I definitely streamed it at some point and got really close to the end and just barely didn't do it. Like on my first try. It's not a great game, but
yeah, I don't know what they were going for with this game. Like, I mean,
it's not trash, but
yeah, it's not terrible, but it's like this doesn't feel like the NES games. It doesn't even feel like the arcade game.
How do you use the? Oh, that's right. I guess you hit down and attack to use the abilities, which is a little weird.
Oh yeah, let's hit down and attack to throw a boomerang up.
I mean, I guess the down could feel like the wind up. I don't know, but it seems to be down and attack for everything. I don't know. I guess they just wanted to be different.
They probably just wanted to be different.
But I mean, honestly, it looks a little weird for sure. But I mean, control and the down and attack is weird. But other than that, like it controls decently. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. Am I actually hearing this guy? Like, is there just no feedback? Oh, now it's working. Oh, I guess I have to do it when he has his club over the head, I guess.
So I decided to like kind of thumb through Analog's website because we were talking about the Pocket earlier, which, spoiler warning, the Pocket does not come with the Game Gear adapter. You gotta buy that separately.
I could have swore it did, but I must have been...
It was probably your unit specifically because it was a review unit.
Yeah, I mean, I probably knew at the time. Maybe what confused me was like I knew they were available right away, and it's the others that you had to wait on.
Yeah, but I was mainly slipping on in here to see if maybe Analog finally gave us some images of what the Analog 3D looks like. Maybe no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I mean, we have like screenshots of GoldenEye with the menu interface, which looks like it's just the same Analog Pocket menu interface. Great.
I mean, I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to look like the Ultra HDMI and the N64 digital, except you'll probably be able to do 4K CRT effects that will look similar to RetroTink 4K, I would presume.
Yeah, well,
although with less flexibility, probably.
Yeah. See, I mainly
be a combination of those things.
Yeah, I mainly pre-ordered it because, number one, I sold a bunch of reproduction cartridges to get it. Number two, the N64 is like a very important system for me. It's
me too.
Not to get like super sentimental. Well, I will get a little bit super sentimental. My earliest memory, like period. I'm not talking like earliest gaming memory, earliest system memory. I'm talking like earliest memory that I have is me sitting in the middle of the night holding the N64 controller in front of a big boxy CRT playing Ocarina of Time.
Wow, first memory playing a Zelda game. It's kind of a complex game for a first memory.
I don't know what it was about that game, but like I just I just got it. And my dad told me that I was when I was younger, I was really gifted as a gamer. Like, I would when Mortal Kombat came out for the N64, like my uncles and my dad had played it for years, but I was smoking them like no one else.
Yeah, I did not get into games like Zelda until, you know, I was a little older, like middle school, I guess. But like elementary school, I was all about like your Marios and your really straightforward kinds of games.
Yeah. But with the N64, it's like this system means a lot to me because it's the system I spent the most time with my family. It was like hours of Mario Party, Pokemon Stadium. You know, even when I was a kid, like, yeah, I understood Zelda, but I wasn't really good at it because, well, obviously I was a little kid. But, you know, I played it with my family. You know, the N64 is such an integral part of not just my gaming interest, but me in general, that like when I saw the analog 3D, I was like, I need to have this. Like, this speaks to me as a person, even though I own like 3, 4, or 5 different N64s.
I've got many ways to play it. Yeah, I'm very interested in the overclocking capabilities, for sure. So yeah, this is the Donald Duck game that oh yeah, I forgot he has a hammer. That's kind of nice. He's actually kind of a little, has a little more ability to defend himself in this one, I would say.
Oh, he's got a hammer.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything. I think you can equip other weapons later. I sort of forget exactly, but yeah, this is one of the relatively few Game Gear games I have actually finished.
It's kind of funny how like a lot of these early Donald Duck games don't really like ever tap into his temper issues.
Well, but the other one, Deep Duck Trouble, kind of did, because you get like you get that like chili pepper, and he like, you know, kind of goes, rah, and goes on a rampage.
Well, sure, the chili pepper, but like I'm thinking like Going Quackers, where it's like the crux of the game is it's basically like Crash Bandicoot, but you have to piss off Donald in order to actually get further in the game.
Well, yeah, it's really funny how he like walks. He like, as you lose more health, like he like stomps around and stuff.
Like the whole crux of Donald's character is that he's Mickey but with a temper issue.
I mean, he's definitely, I think of like that core, like, you know, Mickey Mouse Disney squad. I definitely think Donald is the most entertaining of those characters, and certainly like the Duck family that kind of spun off from it is,
yeah,
you know, your whole DuckTales family. Like, that's like, DuckTales is probably my favorite Disney thing, period.
Yeah, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Like, you have his Uncle Scrooge, and ironically, Donald has a worse temper than his uncle because Scrooge is actually a lot more calm.
Yeah.
You would think with a name like Scrooge, it would be worse, but no.
Yeah.
Then you have Huey, Dewey, Louie. I think the...
Oops.
Fuck, what was the name of the fourth one? Webby?
Webby?
There it is.
Yeah. You know, I thought I would really hate the DuckTales reboot from several years ago. Like, I was like, oh man, the nephew, they all look different. They look different from each other, and they all have different voice actors and different personalities. Boo. But
to be fair,
it was amazing. It was an amazing show.
It was actually really good. I was kind of bummed about the change of voice actors, but I understood because like the voice actors were like in their 90s. I think a couple of them were dead by that point.
I think Scrooge's voice actor had just died.
Yeah,
because the last thing he did was DuckTales Remastered.
Yeah,
which you can tell he sounds pretty old in it, but he did a good job.
Yeah, he pulled through.
The difference with that versus I don't know if you've seen the Indiana Jones movie from last year, but the difference with the whole young Indy, not young Indy, but the era, the age he was in the original trilogy, it opens up with the segment like that, and but old Harrison Ford is voicing him, and it just completely took me out of it. it doesn't work, and it doesn't work for me anyway. But man, I am not acting like I've beaten this game before, but I swear I have. You all saw it on that Mr. Marathon. But anyway, the difference with that though is, Scrooge was always supposed to be old. So, his voice actor sounding naturally older, didn't really matter because he was always old. It's like Desmond Llewellyn, he was old in his first appearance as Q. So it didn't matter that he was ancient through his whole decades worth of tenure as Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison should not voice himself. In retrospect, with the game coming out, it's well, Troy Baker should have done the opening of that movie instead of Harrison Ford.
I feel like Troy Baker is just being set up as the ultimate replacement for a lot of voice actors. I remember for Arkham Origins, instead of bringing back Mark Hamill for Joker, they brought in Troy Baker. But and he does a decent impression of Mark Hamill's Joker. But every time that I see this nostalgic character that you remember is getting a new voice actor and it's Troy Baker, I'm like, how many times am I going to see this guy's name?
Well, there was another one that didn't work. That was Nazo Pollo, which I think is more like a puzzly sort of. They're all puzzle games, but I don't know. It's a weird kind of Pollo offshoot. So we got one more. Let's cross our fingers that we go out on a bang here.
I think I have Nazo Pollo on the Super Famicom. I discovered it when I was doing another lot purchase.
Yeah, there's two Nazo Pollo games. There's on Super Famicom. I think the Game Gear one is pretty different though. I forget exactly. That's what I love about Pollo games is they're so cheap that you can just grab them on a whim. I actually have those in box. They were just a local game store, dirt cheap. I'll buy a cheap Pollo game. Why not?
Well, I bought mine because I remembered you bought yours, and I was like, that sounds like a good, interesting addition to my collection of ever-growing Super Famicom games.
Yeah, they're interesting. They have a nice look to them.
I also, so this morning this morning I just purchased a lot of 10 Super Famicoms for $100, and
nice.
And in the MLiG Discord, I was blaming Show for it because
you're becoming Show. The Kermit Emperor emote is strong with you.
Yeah, he responded with a GIF that said, "You're fulfilling your destiny, Anakin." And I was like, "Oh, God damn it, show."
No, that's not true. That's impossible.
But in addition to that, though, another game that I did add to my collection was Rudra no Hiho, or Treasure of Rudra.
Oh yeah, that the art in that game is incredible. Like it's like Final Fantasy VI art style, both in battle and out of battle, like amped up to 11. Like with animated characters in battle, animated monsters in battle. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I've not played far into it, but it's awesome. That's also a really crazy game where like the text boxes are like a different horizontal resolution than the rest of the image, and on one chip consoles,
it freaks out.
It works, but it looks broken, but also kind of cool on a CRT, like how the text box like bleeds into the overscan.
Well, that depends, because in some scalers, it actually causes the scaler to freak out.
Yeah,
when the text box appears, and which is what I had brought that up a couple years ago, and then brought it up again when we were talking about different resolutions and whatnot, and that's when a user by the name, I think Blizz, did a patch specifically for that game to fix the text box. Apparently, they were using an illegal instruction.
That's so cool, though. You know what's interesting too? I believe it was Joe Redifer who said some years ago that he had a specific model of Super Nintendo that when text boxes appeared in Chrono Trigger, it would cause the FrameMeister to drop. But like other Super Nintendos, that didn't happen. And for one, I wasn't aware that if that's the case, I would assume that's because of a 256 resolution deal going on, but I have never had anything drop from Chrono Trigger on any system with any upscaler. Wow, I'm not fine Robotnik.
So we got a $5 donation from Matthew.
Thank you.
I liked a Shinobi and Jurassic Park game on Game Gear. I had a GB Pocket back then, but borrowed a cousin's GG for a while. You could play it in the dark.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, it is still amazing to me. I mean, it's still amazing to me that the Game Boy took off the way it did in some ways, because like you would think that the color of Game Gear would have been a major selling factor. But I mean, you know, as we've shown tonight, Game Gear has a strong library. But Game Boys was strong. Game Boys was stronger. I don't know what the cost difference was. Certainly the cost difference in batteries was definitely a major thing, probably for parents.
Like, I'm still discovering Game Gear games to this day that turn out to be really solid. Like, it's amazing to me how high quality the Game Gear library is. And it only makes it more tragic that the reason why so many people have such a negative impression of it is because, again, the screen.
Yeah, but the actual game's good. Also, you know what's interesting about this game here? It's the only, at least I think there's a bunch of Sonic. These are all the Sonic games. I've played all the Sonic games that I have, other than Sonic Drift 2, which didn't boot up for some reason. But this is the only one of the ones I have where multiple rings come out of your character instead of just a single one. So that's neat. But anyway, yeah, Matthew, if you go back and look at the archives, one of the games I played earlier on in the evening was Jurassic Park, and it's really good, honestly. I knew it was good, but I played, you know, I'd not played more than a few minutes of it. I didn't play that much tonight, but I played more than I had before, and it's quite good. It's quite good. And Shinobi 1 and 2 are excellent. I didn't play them tonight because I've already streamed Shinobi 1 before. And I've beaten it. And I'm planning to play Shinobi 2 on a backloggery stream sometime later this month. I think maybe the week of Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. The Shinobi games are, quite different from the other versions. They're kind of like Mega Man-like, and you like get to choose which levels you do in which order, and you rescue these different colored Shinobis that all have different. They have slightly different powers. So you can choose like different ones to tackle different levels and stuff, and it's good. It's good. Oh, I get what I have to do here. Hopefully.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Have you figured out the secrets of this of the Sonic?
The secrets? Is there something weird about it?
No, I'm just messing with you.
No, I mean it seems like your standard one-button Sonic game.
I think the only secret is making sure you collect the Chaos Emeralds, but I think that's just a given.
Oh, that collecting all the Chaos Emeralds is something I have never done and have like no desire to do in any Sonic game. Like I feel like no game has really punished you for not getting all the Chaos Emeralds. Like it's still, some games, like if you don't get all the things, it gives you like such a terrible ending that you don't feel like you really beat the game. But like, I don't know, no Sonic game has given me enough like negative reinforcement for like when I don't get all of the Chaos Emeralds, it doesn't like it doesn't feel like it punishes me.
Well, two kind of does, but only if you look at it that way. Apparently, if you don't collect all the Chaos Emeralds, the ending is like Sonic looks up in the sky and sees like an image of Tails, implying that Tails died.
Well, I like how it sure says Tails has passed. Poor Tails.
I'm like, well, way to guilt trip your audience. It reminds me of the game over screen from Banjo-Kazooie, where it basically shames you because you stopped playing the game.
Yeah. This boss seems a fair bit tougher than the first one. The levels in this game seem a little shorter than some of the others, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So anyway, yeah, I like I said earlier in the stream, I did earlier this year. I happened to find the Master System version of Sonic 2 and Sonic Chaos at a local store, and it says it had a sticker. Whenever they happen to have European games at the store, they put a sticker on it that says European version requires PAL system, and I'm just looking at those. I'm thinking, no, but I will accept your low price that you put them that you marked them as.
I've seen that before with like Super Famicom games. Sometimes they'll be like, only plays on Japanese systems, and I'm like, yeah, it only plays on Japanese systems.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Please do price this game at a low price just to move it, because no one in America would possibly want that.
Which, funny enough, I actually remember last year I got a AV Famicom and a copy of Demon's Blazin' from my local game store during Black Friday.
Nice.
I think I only paid like $50-$60 for Demon's Blazin'. which even for just a loose card of that game, that's a steal because that's around like $80 now.
Wow.
Which I guess it makes sense because it's like it's basically the cheaper way of playing Demon's Crest.
Hurting that thing. Wow. I guess I did it.
And the AV Famicom was just because, like,
hey, always good to have AV Famicom.
Yeah, but I have like 3 of them, so
always good to have AV Famicom.
It's one of those things where it's like, if a store has imports, I am immediately drawn to them. It's why I'm both excited and nervous about going to this convention because I feel like the moment that I see imports, it's game over for my wallet.
What convention is it?
I'm gonna be going to SAC Gamers Expo. That's this December.
Where is that?
Sacramento.
Oh, I guess it's in the name then.
Yeah.
Is a big convention, or we've never like, I don't really know anything about California. I mean, you would think there would be multiple gaming conventions in California, but like no one's really asked us about any.
So there is. There's Southeast Southeast Game Exchange somewhere else. There is a SoCal Retro. There's SAC Gamers Expo, and my local store is trying to start up another convention in Placer County. I don't know many details about that, but yeah, this is the first year that I'm going to SAC Gamers Expo, and apparently they've been around for 10 years. And 3 particular people that are going that catch my interest are, let me see. SAC Gamers Expo. I'm trying to remember their names. Like 2 of them I don't remember, but the third one I do. David Humphrey, Scott Dreyer, and Ryan Drummond. They are the voice actors for Shadow the Hedgehog, Knuckles the Echidna, and Sonic the Hedgehog, respectively, during the Dreamcast era.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what I'm going to do is I have a blue Dreamcast shell coming in the mail. I'm going to build a custom Dreamcast and try to get all 3 of them to sign it.
Ah, that's fun. That's a fun idea.
So, which, as far as like YouTube content creators, the one that I immediately recognize that's on the guest list is Nintendo.
Yeah, I've been at a couple of the same conventions as him.
To which I oh, and Chris Kohler is apparently showing up too, which that's going to be interesting.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Not met him before.
He's the editorial director of Digital Eclipse.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot he worked there now.
And then, as far as another content creator, Cake Hoarder, who's actually a more recent rising star. He because he worked with Hard4 Games to get a bunch of unreleased GameCube games dumped.
Ah.
And also his app
was that Cake Hoarder?
Yes.
As in what Kirby does?
Yes, which is ironic because his avatar is a paper toad with a wizard hat.
Not Kirby. If my name was Cake Hoarder, my avatar would be Kirby. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like Tails can fly. That might be the secret I never figured out in this game. That you were alluding to, perhaps. I am no Sonic expert. I'm here to tell y'all. I don't know much about the Sonics. I keep buying some of these games, but I ain't good at them. I don't particularly like Sonic as a character.
I know a bit about
something to him.
Sonic. I know a bit about Sonic, mainly because I was involved with that kind of fan base when I was like in my teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that I wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like there are like good Sonic fans out there. Don't get me wrong. There are good people who enjoy Sonic, but like, man, when I look back at those years, like a lot of the ones I engaged with were just so weird. But a lot of us were also young, so we were like 14, 15. Yeah. So a lot of us were just weird because we were cringy teenagers.
Yeah. Everyone is at some point. Man, looking at this empty bowl, like, I feel like I just finished a bowl of popcorn. It's all gone. Nothing rattling around at the bottom of the bowl though. But yeah, I played every Game Gear game I have, except for the ones that didn't boot up for whatever reason. I might try to clean the cartridge slot, and also like see if they will boot up on the Mega SG or Analog Pocket, before I decide if I might need to send the carts to you. I might actually not be a bad idea to, if I'm going to send you some stuff, maybe I'll just send you I'll send you the ones that have batteries too. I've got Game Boy size batteries, which I assume would also go into Game Gear carts, but I'm not sure.
No, they should.
Yeah, I would imagine they'd be the same thing. But yeah, so thanks for joining me on late notice today, and thanks for making this what I would consider to be my ultimate Game Gear that has all the mods I would want. Making it a reality, in spite of it perhaps having been more of a crazy request than I understood that it was when I first started talking to you about it.
Well, as difficult as it was to do, I did. Ultimately, I would say I did have a good time putting it together. Like, I do these things not because I want notoriety or because I want to compete with any other modders. I do this because it's fun, and for me, your Game Gear was challenging, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, so well, I'm glad to hear it. Good to know that it was not an entirely frustrating experience.
Well, the only reason why
at least it was a clean Game Gear to start with.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm personally dreading my Game Gear is because of the fact that I'm going to be exploring uncharted territory, and I have no idea what's going to happen. So, like,
look forward to hearing what kind of mess that turns into.
Well, hopefully it's better than the last one. The $200 I wasted on the McWill one.
Oh yeah, right.
Which to elaborate on what was wrong with that, as a handheld it was fine, but once you hooked it up into the HD TV, you had jail bars up the wazoo, and it was bad. Like, I'm sorry, there was no way to like rectify it. It wasn't a sampling issue. It just looked bad.
Yeah, I mean the jail bars on this are very tolerable. I mean, very very typical of like no worse really than like an unmodified Sega Genesis.
Yeah. To which the fate of that Game Gear, it was sold to Bob.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So that's out of my hair. So with this next one, I'm hoping that the Ben HD kit is actually solid, because I hear he does good greens. He just never has them because they sell out so fast. So I plan on getting his HD kit with the screen, and hopefully I can integrate this one into my setup, because I would like to play Game Gear on my RetroTink 4K as well.
Yeah. That's exactly what I wanted to do with it. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for joining. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm sure I will probably pick some of these games for future streams, as the actual like dedicated game of the stream. I just kind of thought in this situation it would be more fun to just play a variety of games than sticking to any particular one. But in the future, I will definitely stick with some of these games. Now I have a little more idea of what to expect from some of the ones that I'd never booted before. So
yeah.
So yeah, look forward to that sometime in the future. We all look forward to you reporting in our Discord and in the chat and on streams and your YouTube channel, Fenris Wolf Retro, on your results from any of these other Game Gear projects that and other modding projects that you've been talking about.
Yeah. As far as making a video on Game Gear, let's wait on that a bit before I can comfortably say that I can do so.
Yeah.
If I do a video on Game Gear, it'll either be the Ben screen, or it will be trying to build something similar to your Game Gear, but hopefully with a much more clear game plan on how I lay everything out.
Yeah, well, you've done it once before. I mean, I'm sure it would have been way too stressful to try to like document in video, like while you're like trying to figure out, how am I going to combine these three mods into the same space. Yeah. Now that you've got experience with that, like, you could probably put a pretty good video out there on laying that out for people, because I think it's kind of the ideal combination of everything. You've got an authentic screen with a, safe new backlight. You've got RGB output. They can be, now your upscaling options are awesome. And, you've got, like, I've got my filter that I made here that I think will be included in future RetroTink updates. So yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff you can do with a Game Gear now, I think. I don't know if the Tim Worthington board is still being produced.
It is.
Well, that's good. Because I have no idea, because I know he stopped selling the Atari one. I don't know what, I don't know how big of a seller Game Gear RGB is, but I'm glad it exists, because it's exactly what I wanted. So I am happy. So.
Funny enough, there was a video from Rocker Gaming who did something similar for another YouTuber's Game Gear, and he used a completely different kit. This one had the controller board and the RGB mod integrated into one. And I have no idea where he got it from. He did not link where it came from.
Wow.
So now I'm going to try to search around and see if I could find it. If I can't find it, then yeah, I'm basically gonna have to do what I did with yours, and then go from there. All
right, well, that'll do it. So we'll sign off here, and we will see y'all hopefully with Coury in tow next week. Good night, everyone.
Till the blue moon rises.